Today, a very happy birthday to one of my absolute all-time idols. Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin is 70 years old today. It's kind of funny. I posted today and I tweeted out and I said, without Jimmy, there is no me, there is no you, there is no us. And I really meant that. All right, let's get the show going. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Facebook is blowing up, by the way. Love it. Thank you for all of the likes last night. Everything is Fade to Black. Twitter account is at JChurchRadio. YouTube is Fade to Black. You know what to do. Go like, subscribe, friend, do whatever you got to do. Follow us. All right. Tonight, we may be taking your calls in the third segment because we have got a very, very special show lined up tonight. If we can get to your calls, we will. You know the call-in number. It is 323-825-5045. You can email throughout the show. I will try to get to as many as I can. Feed me the emails. The producers here will read through them, and anything that is worthy and you want to ask some questions, certainly do that, and I will get to as many of those as I can throughout the show. The bumper music, as always, is Doug Aldrich from Whitesnake. Thank you, Doug. And, Doug is a very special guy, and it is very important to me that he allows us and has provided for us all of the music on the show. The Giza viewer, by the way, is still up on the contact page. That is not ever going to go anywhere. Over at artbell.com, by the way, there are a few things that you need to check out. The weirdest star in the universe has been found. Go over to artbell.com, check out that pic. One of our shows here on the network is a show called Paranormal Central, and they have posted some Minnesota Iceman pics, and you've got to go check those out. I meant to mention it last night, and I was looking at them again today, and I don't know what to think, so go check those out. The Crop Circle Mystery, I'm going to try to get to the bottom of this. We know it was an NVIDIA publicity stunt. We know that. But there's more to the story than just that. And I've got a special report we are preparing. Oh, also, Bruce Lee. I'm just going to say this once. Bruce Lee and his son. I have got a report coming in, and you just think about what I just said. I've got a report coming in next week that is going to blow up, and you're not going to believe it. Okay, really quick. There's a story over on that we posted to the Jimmy Church fan page on Facebook. Jennifer McCarthy, this was today in the LA Times. Jennifer McCarthy, she's the former wife of Pulitzer Prize-winning author Cormac McCarthy, was arrested in a bizarre assault case in Santa Fe, New Mexico last week. Now, that's not the story. The story is, and you've got to go check this out, the story is New Mexico and aliens. And she was arrested on assault charges. Go and check that out, the Jimmy Church fan page. All right. Normally, this is where I take a break and go to commercial. I'm not going to do that tonight. We've got a lot that we're going to talk about, and so I'm just going to go into it. And like I always say when I come to this kind of position, I'm the boss. This is my show. And you know what? The advertisers, they can just wait an hour for their stuff to broadcast because I'm very excited about what we've got lined up tonight. After Travis Walton last night, and you stop and you think, you know, these shows that Fade to Black has been bringing to the public, you know, night after night, week after week, each show is just better than the last, and tonight is no exception. And I just want to jump. I'm just going to go straight into it. So let's start it off like this. Yvonne Smith began researching the UFO phenomenon in the late 1980s. After 2 years of studies and thousands of hours of internship, California Hypnosis Motivation Institute, which is the only accredited hypnosis college in the United States, she received her hypnotherapy certification in 1990. Smith founded the Close Encounters Resource Organization, also known as CERO, in 1992. And by the way, this Saturday, Ciro International's first event of 2014 is going to be this Saturday, January 11th, in, I believe it's Marina del Rey. And as you know, I run this show without notes. So how do you like that? And her American television appearances include such things as the History Channel, Biography Channel, Montel Williams, Intruders, MSNBC, Encounters, Sightings, Joan Rivers, Roseanne Barr, and The Lisa Show. Best-selling author Stan Romanek grew up in a military family on an Air Force base and was expected to follow a military career. It was not long after Stan's first experience with the paranormal in 2000 that he would learn of a connection to his experiences, the military, and why they so eagerly wanted him to follow in his father's footsteps. Stan began to document his UFO sightings and contact with extraterrestrials. Due to an overwhelming evidence and multitude of witnesses who have come forward, Stan's case, and Stan in general, has caused quite a stir in the scientific and UFO communities. I would like to welcome to the program Yvonne Smith and Stan Romanek. Guys, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, thank
Hello.
you. Thank you for having us on, Jimmy.
Absolutely.
Quite the introduction, but this is a very special show. And first off, I want to thank the both of you for taking the time. You both have busy schedules, and Yvonne, you've got your event coming up this Saturday. Stan,
Yeah.
you're always out there causing trouble, so we'll get to that in a second. But again, thank you. Stan's coming in from Colorado, and Yvonne, who we tried our darndest to have Yvonne in the studio with us with her event that's going on this Saturday. She's literally a couple of blocks away in the city next door. But, it's kind of funny. This is what technology brings. We were talking about this earlier. That we are able to do this like this live to our audience out there. So really, thank you. Thank you both.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's and I start off every show the same way, and I talk to the guests the same way. This is just a conversation. Let's have some fun. If I find it interesting and you guys find it interesting, everybody out there listening tonight is going to find it interesting. And that's how we do things here. And but I'm going to start off first with some generalities. And I want to start off with you, Yvonne.
Okay.
You've got a very unique career, very unique.
Yes.
How? I mean, what happened?
When I think about it, I don't know what happened. It was just I became interested in the abduction phenomenon, but I didn't really know about the abduction phenomenon until I picked up, and I've heard this from hundreds of my clients, until I picked up Whitley Strieber's book in the late 80s, Communion. When I was in a bookstore with my oldest son, he had a book report to do, and I was browsing, and I saw the cover of his book, and I had no idea what it was about until I picked it up, and I read the side jacket of the hardcover, and I bought it and read it in 2 days, which is, if anybody knows me, I don't read anything in 2 days. It takes me a long time to plow through something, but when I'm really interested, obviously, I went through this book, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. So I also became fascinated with how hypnotherapy is used for so many different types of therapies to help someone from, weight loss or smoking to self-esteem issues. And so when I was studying, I began studying hypnotherapy. I had planned to work with cancer patients to desensitize them when they have to go through chemotherapy and they're losing their hair and so forth and so on, which I did for a while. But when I opened my practice in La Cañada, California, which is not too far from you, Jimmy, 10 minutes from me, I'd had my office up there for over 20 years. I was stunned to when I began receiving referrals about abduction or, UFO contact cases, and I thought, they're going to maybe trickle in and I'll still have my practice, my other practice. But as time went on, it began taking 98% of my practice with cases, and then not to mention when I began lecturing and doing radio interviews, and eventually, my first interview was funny. It was the Glendale News Press. They did an article about my work because they found out about my work. It just seemed, so hard to explain how this all happened in a way, because I feel that this was my path in life, and there were circumstances in my life that led me here.
And not to cut you off, but I'm going to bring in Stan in a second. But the three of us have been talking about this very subject this week, about how does this happen in what changes in our life, what leads us down this path. And I think with everybody, you don't have a choice, and that sounds like that's exactly what you're saying. It was just it was there for you, and you went with it, and you know what I mean. You don't go get a degree in this, and that's and well,
I received my certification, of course, as a hypnotherapist, but they don't teach this.
No, there is no.
They do not teach alien abduction.
A BS in, right. An MBA or some kind of with an alien abduction. At the end. Of it. So
exactly.
And Stan, really quick, for you, what happened? What was that event that started things off?
I'm blaming it on the military and swamp gas. Really, with me, honestly, and everybody close to me knows this. I was a skeptic, but I grew up in the military, and there were some weird things that happened to me as a child that you really don't think about. But my story really starts in 2000 when I had my first UFO sighting. But as I look back on my childhood, it really started when I was a very small child. And, I don't believe in coincidences. I think in my situation, I think it was all part of the plan. I think it was all written out, before I became an adult, before I was born, probably. I really do truly think that I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do what I'm doing.
Well, and what year did the first event? I mean, the first substantial thing, because it's been going on for you for a long, long time. But what year did things actually officially kick off?
Well, really for me, it was the year 2000 when I had my first UFO sighting.
Okay.
And back then I was really aggressive towards people that said they believed in UFOs or ghosts. In fact, I was very mean to them. And honestly, I think this is payback. Karma's bit me in the butt.
Yeah, karma, Stan.
Yeah.
Well, now check this out. I just got in our first email. I've got a bunch of email. This is the first that just came in. And it's a great question for both of you. And you know what? I don't think I would have asked this, actually. And this comes in from Felipe here in the San Fernando Valley. He says, how can we initiate contact ourselves? You want to try that first, Yvonne? Because I know Stan has got.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in that. And people who come to me, never have told me they never asked for this. They didn't want this in their lives. So I think Stan is the expert on this one.
I don't know if there's anybody that's really an expert. For whatever reason, they just follow people. And, a lot of people say, Stan, you have some kind of magical power. No, not really. I've tried lots of times to bring them in. But I have noticed something interesting. Meditation really does seem to affect what happens. And if you can learn to quiet your mind and just sit there and concentrate and put love out to the universe, I truly believe you get that back and things start to show up. I've done this quite a few times, and it seems to have some kind of effect. Now, granted, there's probably good and bad out there, just like there's good and bad here, so you have to be careful. Just, put it out there that you want to make contact with the good guys, and, eventually something's going to stick, right?
Right. Is this something that you practiced or perfected? Is that what you're suggesting?
Interestingly enough, the story is quite amazing. I've been told throughout my experiences that's one of the things that I have to do from all angles. Everybody's saying, Stan, you have to meditate. Even during my regression, some of the things that came out says, Stan, you have to meditate. And I kind of ignored it because I'm just not that type of person. But
that was me. Go ahead.
A situation where I was going to do a conference in Arizona, and this person called my wife and said, and I can't mention his name because I promised him I wouldn't. He says, I've got to meet Stan. And we thought it was just a fan that wanted to meet with me. No big deal. Well, so unfortunately this conference wasn't able, it didn't happen. It just didn't happen for whatever reason. They ran out of money, whatever. And this guy emailed my wife and said, look, I'm really disappointed, but that's okay. And then I had another conference I was going to do in New York, and this guy was real excited. He says, well, I'll meet Stan in New York. Long story short, this guy ends up being a Hindu monk from India, and apparently they had a close encounter of the fourth kind visit, and they gave him a message to give to me, and that's what this guy is saying. And he actually just not too long ago, he was at our house for a whole week, and he taught me to meditate. And since I've meditated, all kinds of amazing things have happened. So it works.
So it's one of the, you've gotten it to repeat.
I have, but what's more amazing is, I wasn't listening to the messages that I was getting about meditating, so that I had to send a Hindu monk to slap me around a little bit. And it really does seem to work. I mean, I'm doing something.
Have you ever heard of anything like that, Yvonne?
I've heard people have told me that they've tried to meditate to see if they can make contact with the alien beings. But one thing I caution people is that they have to be very careful with this, because if something comes up that they're not expecting, just as Stan explained, there's good, there's bad, something may come through that they weren't expecting, and maybe frightening, or where they're by themselves and there's no one there to help them through it. That's why I caution people not to do
Absolutely.
self-hypnosis type on themselves to try to go into the lost hours, like the missing time,
right.
Things that they can't remember. This is something that you really need to have a facilitator there with you. That's why I have had calls, emails from all over the world asking me if I could do a regression over the phone. And
well, how do you normally get approached? I mean, it takes a lot of guts for somebody to even contemplate about contacting somebody about something like this.
Absolutely.
How do you get approached? Is it the same way every time, or is every case a little bit different?
How do I get approached?
Yeah, I mean,
back in the day when I started my practice and I started Zero, the support group, it was mainly through phone calls and snail mail, because we were just getting to, email, but we weren't using email back then like we are now. So it was phone calls from all over, and those of us who were researching, we'd call each other all over the country, and of course our phone bills were just tremendous. But what they do is they will seek me out. They'll hear me say on an interview like this one, or they'll go on now. See, now you've got the internet where they'll Google me, or someone has told them about me, or they've read my book, or they went on, it's just so many different ways now. But when I started, it was mainly through referrals from my fellow researchers, and that's how they came to me. I mean, the only time I ever advertised, I put a small little blurb in UFO magazine years ago when I started my practice, but that was it. I've never advertised. It's just been word of mouth. And because I studied with Bud Hopkins, who was considered the pioneer of abduction research.
Sure.
They felt that I very credible, that received good training in the abduction work, because, like as mentioned before, I didn't get my certification in abduction work. I received it for hypnosis, which anybody can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very mechanical, but I feel that to do this type of work, you really need to have, it's like a calling. In other words, you really need to have it in your blood, or you meant, like Stan said, you're meant to do this.
Well, Stan, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay.
No, that's okay. So many different ways, where I will receive, and now it's through emails and through my website, where my staff will forward the emails to me from people.
Okay. And Stan, and for you in 2000, how did you, you had to talk to somebody the first time about your experience, and how did you cross that line? And listen, really quick, I had photographed something years and years ago, and one day I'll post it. It's not that big of a deal, but what I didn't do is talk to people about it. Okay, I just didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to cross that line. I knew what my experience was, but I just didn't do it. I'm just now talking about it. Well, now I'm talking to, thousands of people live around the world. But Stan, what did you do? Did you wait? Did you talk about it immediately? Who did you approach?
Well, it's funny. I had met my wife online. She lived in Nebraska. I lived here in Colorado, and I wanted to try to get her to come up. So I thought I'd go videotape the Rocky Mountains, send her a care package with some wine and some chocolate-covered cherries. Mm-hmm. And I never actually made it up to the spot I wanted to go videotape at. On my way, I saw this massive UFO with over the power lines with, 30 to maybe 60 other people that were there before me. And I called her. It's interesting because I was a skeptic. My wife believed in this stuff. And she kind of helped me through it. I just refused to believe. I thought it was some kind of, at first I thought it was a bizarre-shaped hot air balloon until it started pacing my car.
Wow.
And then, then we watched it all just suddenly dart away. From that point, I convinced myself it was some kind of military experiment. The trouble is, stuff kept happening to me over and over and over again.
Well, so you had friends or witnesses. You were just saying, 60, 100,
other
witnesses.
And that's how my case is. There's always seems to be all these witnesses when this stuff happens.
Does that make you more comfortable in talking about it? Because you know what I mean? There's somebody there to corroborate.
Absolutely. And I feel sorry for the people out there that don't. For me, this is normal. We live our they're creepy and they're kooky, mysterious and spooky. That song, The Addams Family, mm-hmm. That's pretty much how we are with the UFO phenomenon. This is around us 24/7, and our normal is not most people's normal.
Well, your case, and Yvonne, you can just jump in and go, "Yep, yes, Jimmy," but your case is unique in that it has been ongoing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't stop. I mean, just recently, I just posted some stuff on my website. We had a massive UFO sighting I mean, my neighbors, there's always this collateral damage. My neighbor has a story where she was taking her dog out to the backyard and something was crawling over the fence into her yard and scared the crap out of her. Very religious, very sweet people.
Mm-hmm.
And she was freaked out, just absolutely freaked out. The whole neighborhood came out just roughly about a month ago and watched this massive, huge UFO just hover above our house, and I got it on video.
Now, in your case, and Yvonne, I would love if you can refer to some of your clients' experiences. If you are familiar with anything as extraordinary as Stan's, but Stan seems to cover everything from not only sightings, but abduction, it's tons of video, confrontations in and outside the house, in the backyard, constant contact for 13, 14 years now, right, Stan?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever heard of anything quite like this, Yvonne?
Well, the not so much as much as activity as Stan and Lisa have. I know they've gone through so much over the years. In fact, we had Stan come and speak for Ciro several years ago before we branched out to Ciro International.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing of what he presented. There are, I tell people that when they ask if someone who's interviewing me are the experiences, do they stop at a certain point or are they ongoing? And what I tell them is they may lay dormant for a while in some people, but then the experience will pick up again. It's a lifelong event, from the time that the person or the family, they start as children,
right.
And it follows them throughout their lives as well as their family line. And so, many people are surprised about that it's an ongoing experience. And it may not be as active as what Stan has, but I have had several Ciro members over this last year. We've had a lot of activity out here in Southern California, sightings over the ocean, and of course, at certain times the abductions will pick up with several people in my group, and we discussed that during the support group meeting. So it just, because we don't hear about any of these sightings very, very rarely on the news, they should be, that should be major news whenever groups of people see them or take pictures of them. Now everyone has a camera with their phone, so we're getting more and more pictures of them. And people think that sightings are very rare, and in fact, they're not.
Stan, for anybody out there right now that's listening that isn't familiar with your case, can you just tell everybody briefly exactly what's been going on? I want everybody to understand. When I say, this is one of the most documented cases ever. And certainly, and you and I were talking about this today. I was talking to a lot of people this week about you. I was really excited to have you on, and so were my friends in the industry, and they all said the same thing. Stan's case is unique and as strong as anything. And so, so when I say things like that, I think everybody needs to really grasp and understand what I'm trying to say. Can you? So, just briefly.
We have stuff happen constantly, the past 13 years especially, and even before that, even when I was a child. I grew up in a military family. My father was involved with missiles. My father had top secret clearance. I learned a couple of years ago. So did my mother, which absolutely blew my mind. My father was involved in an incident in Minot in 1968, Minot Air Force Base, where he worked between Minot and Grand Forks at the missile bases there, where a UFO came down and actually armed one of the missiles in launch position. Not disarmed it, but armed it. And it was about to launch. And that was kind of this weird little story throughout my life. And then, like I said earlier, I had that sighting in 2000. I had my first abduction experience in 2001. Whatever this is, they're very bold. I had my car beamed in the middle of Denver during rush hour with thousands of people to see. A UFO came down approximately 100 foot above my car at a busy intersection. When I was stopped at a busy intersection and beamed my car, and I got to tell you, those people freaked out. This stuff continues. And for whatever reason, and I think what's ever going on, the guys, and I can only assume because I don't know for sure.
Is it the same? Do you think it's the same?
I do.
The same. It's so the ET is the same each time.
Not the same each time. The same group.
Okay.
I believe there's a group, and even though they might not be the same species, they work together.
That's interesting. It's kind of kind of what Travis was saying last night, actually, and that I find that fascinating. I just got another email in. This is really good, actually. The contactees. Well, we know, Stan, you're a man, but are they contacting female or males more?
Both. Same.
Oh,
as far as I know.
I think it's both. Yeah, just very equal.
Oh, really? So in your experience, Yvonne, there isn't a prevalence of one or the other. It's a 50-50 thing.
Oh yes, I mean they need DNA, and they need the sperm, and they need the eggs, and for their agenda. So I found it is very, very equal. They show no no boundaries.
Nope.
Okay, I have to, and again, we're just having a conversation. There's one thing I just have to ask Stan really quick. The video, there's many, but the one with the being looking in, is it your back window of the house or front window?
It's actually the side window. Okay. You're talking about Boo.
Yeah, the famous Boo video. I didn't want to say Boo, but that's what everybody. Okay, so the famous Boo video, and you can go check it out. It's on YouTube. You can go see the Boo video, which. Quite frankly, the first time I saw it scared the crap out of me, for lack of a better word. So take us back to that. I just have to have you just take me through, because we see you in the video. We see you set up your camera and you're suspecting something. I assume you were having some issues that night with something. And so you felt that you needed to set up your video camera to catch somebody or something. Is that what happened?
Well, this had been going on for over 3 months. I got up from watching TV one evening. I have twin stepdaughters, very beautiful kids. Yvonne's son hung out with them for quite a while, actually, when he lived here in Colorado. And at that time, they were young teenagers. And I got up to go get a drink of water or a cup of coffee or something. I don't remember. And outside of one of the windows, I saw a head duck down. And it was at night. And I'm thinking, oh, God, no, we got a peeping Tom or something. Mm-hmm. Thought it might have been my stepson playing around or something. But he was in bed already. And when I went outside, whoever it was, ran away. Well, this kept happening over and over and over. It got so bad that we called the police.
You're saying it was happening over and over this evening, that particular night.
No, for 3 months.
Oh, for 3 months, this peeping Tom is okay. I got you. Go ahead.
And I've got the police reports and everything. We let all the neighbors know. It got so bad that we set little traps, twigs and sticks underneath the windows. So if this peeping Tom showed up, I had a bat by the door. I'd run out and try to clock this guy in the head, and And you got to understand that the bottom ledge of that window is approximately 7 foot off the ground.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, which is in and of itself is fairly interesting. But one of the researchers involved in my case, and by this time so much had happened, there I had some amazing researchers and scientists involved, and they said, Stan, next time you see this guy, you've got a camcorder, just turn it on and see if you can catch him. Leave the room, turn it on night shot, and see if you could catch this whack job. Well, that's what I did. If you see the full video, you see me setting up the camera and explaining what I'm doing. And there's a bathroom at the end of the hallway, and I go sit at the edge of the bathtub reading a magazine because I really wanted to catch this guy. I just wanted him to be on film so I could give it to the cops. They could tell me if it was my neighbor down the road or whatever.
Right. Well, you say in the video, it's kind of funny, actually. It's not funny now, but it's funny at the time. You go, okay, now I'm going to bed, right? So
yeah. I say that. I try to say that out loud so this guy will purposely look in the window.
That was my question. Exactly.
And I'm going, okay, how do I set this up so I let the guy know that I'm actually going to bed? He doesn't suspect anything, which is kind of hokey, but that's the way it really happened.
Well, that's how you would do it. Okay, so I was assuming, and I've never spoken to you about the video before, and that question has always lingered. I just had, is that what you were doing? You're trying to set up who was ever, possibly there and listening that, you're going to go to bed. So that when you say I'm going to bed, and then well, I'll let you finish, but when he pops up, was that edited or is that in real time? The original?
That's the real deal.
Okay. Okay. Tell us what happens next.
Well, there's I think what I did was in the video that I use for my presentations, I think I pause it so you can see the flashes. I don't know if I have the live one on the website or I don't know. I don't remember. But what happens is I'm sitting in the bathroom and I see these two very, very bright flashes of light. It's like, what the heck? I mean, so bright that I had my door cracked and they blinded me. And it's like, so I look out and then I thought I saw something move. And then I look out again and it's like, I did see something move, and I go, I think I caught the bastard. I really did. I was real excited about it. And then when I looked outside, I see, and it was very bright outside, like it was a full moon, which is strange because it wasn't a full moon.
Okay.
But I see this kid, I thought was a kid, running toward my backyard.
Running away from the house?
Yeah, he was on the side of the house. He's running toward the backyard, and he clipped the bush. And it's like he sensed me. I knew he couldn't hear me, but he turned around, and we turned around. It's like, oh, my God, his eyes are just too freaky, and it scared the crap out of me. And but the funny thing is I ran up like a little girl and yelled for my wife like she was going to protect me.
Well, you could tell in the video, and if it's not real, then you're one of the best actors ever. I'll just go on the record and just say that, because the look on your face as you look out the window, because you can't see in the video what you can see, through the window. And the look on your face and the way that you jumped and the way that you reacted was about as and that's part of the scary part of the video. Yvonne, you've seen the video?
Oh yeah, and he showed that when he came to speak for Zero. And when Stan explains that the window is 7 feet off the ground, that's pretty high up. So I don't know. I mean, it looks real to me, and like you said, Stan's reaction. But I know, Stan, you got so much flack over that. When that all happened.
and we'll talk about that if you want, Stan. I would love to know. But the thing is, for me, and I want everybody to go watch this video, the thing that, for me, not only Stan's reaction, but I've just got to say, it was the blink. The blink freaked me out. And that is, you just can't fake it. And if you did, Stan, you've got a career here in Hollywood, somewhere, because special effects guys are looking for guys like you that can pull that off. But that blink freaked me out. I jumped the first time I saw it. I
There's
couldn't
more
believe
to
it.
the video too. If you notice, there's things that, and the debunkers will say, "Well, that's CGI." Trust me, it was done on a DV camera. They had the top people go through and analyze everything. They said, no, absolutely no way. That's all live. There are no cuts in the film. The video wasn't added to the film. It's part of the camera. They coded it to the camera.
Right.
And what they noticed was, because I had an old Sony high-end handy cam with the infrared with night shot on it. If you look, you can actually see its retinas reflect back the infrared of the camera, which is just totally blew the scientists away.
So let's talk about the skeptics on this video a little bit.
Sure.
Obviously, you were on CNN with Larry King. We all know about this.
Yeah.
We all know about the appearance. I saw it. Yvonne, you saw it, correct?
I don't think I saw that. I didn't see him on Larry King.
Okay, well, go watch the video. It's anyway.
No, I watched the video and I know
Okay.
what Stan's talking about. Yeah.
So it's so easy to be a skeptic, and I was just saying this last night, but I really mean this. If there's the easiest job in the world, the easiest job, the one that I want to go fill out a job application for is skeptic, because you don't have to do anything but say no. You don't have to present anything. All you have to do is disagree. And it's so easy to do that with this video, but the truth is, when you take it in its entirety, the video itself stands up on its own. But how did you deal with it just must have been a massive onslaught of debunking and public ridicule and taking your name through the dirt when all you did was just shoot a video.
Go on the internet, you'll see that. I mean, I've got religious people that are saying it's demons, that are saying that I'm lying to make money, even though I'm so poor I can barely even pay my utilities, And there's a story behind the guys that were trying to debunk me on Larry King. They're a local paranormal group, and I'm putting my quote fingers out, paranormal group.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to, this was way before Larry King, they wanted to investigate my story, and they got a little baby hurt because I refused. These guys were my age. They were in their 40s, 50s, and they thought they were goth. They had the tight little girly pants, the long hair, and they should have been, which is like, oh my God, are you serious?
Okay.
So I kind of blew them off, and they were hell bent on trying to make me look bad. And these guys work at I think one worked at I think he still works at a gas station. Another guy works at and they say they're scientists, and he works at a photo lab.
Okay.
And so these guys, and Larry King and those guys, because these guys, you could tell the quality of intellect these guys had, because all they did was cuss the whole time they were on Larry King Live. And Larry King actually called me later personally and apologized. He said, if I would have known these nut jobs would have been on, I would have never let him on.
Well, he's certainly I kind of miss him and his support of
Sure.
all of this. And Yvonne, I'm going to pose the same question to you. Certainly you have to deal with this all the time too, as well. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with it?
Oh, back in the 90s, there were quite a few talk shows and several television shows that addressed UFOs and the abduction issue, and sightings and the encounter shows. I did all of them. And back then, when a couple of times when I would do a talk show, they would plant a debunker in the audience, or they would have a skeptic or a debunker on the panel with me. And you start battling with this person, and you're not able to talk about your work because you're too busy. This person is interrupting you. And finally, I'm at the point now. I'm going. This is my 23rd year doing my work, celebrating my anniversary, and I will not do a show now with if they're going to have a debunker or a skeptic, I tell them don't waste my time, because if you want me to come on and talk about my show, do you want me to present an experiencer to share their story? We will be glad to do that, but I will not be up there trying to go head to head with a debunker, because it's just really a waste of time. I think it's valuable to. I keep talking about this. That's why I opened up the branch of Zero International, to educate the public that this phenomenon is real. What Stan and millions of other people are going through is very real, and we have to get it out of the closet. We've made some progress, but we still have a long way to go. You have to, when you're doing this kind of work, Jimmy, you cannot worry about what people think of you.
Have you two ever? I've never asked either of you this question, but have you two ever worked together? I mean, as a client hypnotherapist?
No, I've never regressed Stan.
Okay.
That'd be interesting, though.
Well, that's my question to you, Stan. Have you ever been? What's the term, Yvonne? You just said it. Regressed?
Hypnotic regression.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Stan, have you been regressed?
Oh, yeah. Some weird stuff happens when I get regressed. I don't really like to talk about it because it's hard for me to explain. I still deep down inside am a skeptic, so when stuff is beyond my comfort level, I try to push it aside.
Right.
But I work with a person named Dr. Leo Sprinkle.
Okay.
Leo's been around a long time.
Okay.
He is a sweetheart too, just like Yvonne is. These guys, they dedicate their life to this stuff. They need a standing ovation. They need awards, because let me tell you, this is tough. You've got not only the media are ruthless, you've got these debunkers that are debunkers because they're just frightened. Then you got the groups that are after me all the time because they are trying to ride my coattails so they can become famous.
Exactly. Well, all of you guys are getting rich. Come on.
Oh yeah, and just like as Stan had said, that sometimes he can hardly pay his utility bills, and I totally relate to that. You don't get into UFO research to be famous and make money, because it's not going to happen for you.
That's exactly.
The people that I've seen over the years come in for the wrong reasons, they've weeded themselves out.
Right. And Stan and I were talking about this very subject today. And just like you're saying, Yvonne and Stan and everybody else that I deal with in this genre, nobody is in this for the money. Right. Go do something else, please. Because that's not the motivation for anybody. And I'm not going to get specific with either of you about dollars. There's no reason to do that. But we are in it for the spirit of it, and that is the truth. So, okay. Now I want to stay focused a little bit here, Stan. And the same question coming at you, Yvonne. When you come out of a regression, and you listen to, because I'm assuming you don't know what you're saying when you are regressed. Is that correct?
No,
no.
People will remember. They're not unconscious.
Okay.
But there is amnesia, some amnesia when they're being hypnotized and regressed. So they're not going to remember every detail.
Right, but when they come out of it, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So when they come out of it, are they just shocked? Stan, were you just did I just say all of that? Did that really happen to me?
It's like being in a deep daydream almost. It's not like you see on TV. They can't make you get naked unless you want to.
Right.
They can't make you bark like a chicken unless you want to. You have to be the suggestion has to hit you first. In my case, though, there were a couple incidences where I don't know how to say this. I don't want to sound crazy. Something I thought I fell asleep, and 2 hours later, I woke up and everybody's mouth was on the ground and they were shaking and freaking out. So I think that's pretty rare, but I think sometimes it does happen. But like Yvonne says, you're not. It's not like you're unconscious,
right? And well, because I've never been hypnotized, so I don't know, and I'm assuming you would have to be open to it too, because if I go into it going, you can't do this to me, then it probably won't happen. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I mean you have to, you have to be willing. You have to give permission to your therapist that you're just gonna allow yourself to relax. And I explain all this before anyone even comes into my office that it's very, very safe. They're not unconscious. I mean, if they wanted to, they could just get up off the couch and walk out the door. But they don't want to. They stay there because they want to know what happened to them. But you're not unconscious. In fact, you can really, because you're dealing with the subconscious mind, which is much stronger than the conscious mind, and we have so many things registered. It's like a mini computer within all of us in the subconscious, that you could hear things even sharper, sounds in my voice or your voice. Because I have people speak through their, and I'm asking them questions and describing what they're experiencing. And but that's why I tape all of my sessions, because I can't possibly take all those notes, and catching every detail is very important. And then the person will eventually want a copy. But I've had so many people request copies of their sessions, but yet they're not able to listen to them. They're not ready.
I've got another email, and remember, these are coming in real time because people are listening to us live. So this is actually very cool. Under hypnosis, do you find when somebody's regressed a consistency with the descriptions of the ETs? Is there different species? Is everything? Do you find a consistency? Is there a broad, so when you're taking your notes, I guess the way that I'm going to ask this question is, do you classify everything? Is it just like very consistent from patient to patient? Or is it?
It is the similarities through, from person to person is startling. I mean, this is what kept me in this work when I began my practice, with people, and still it happens, of course. People come in to see me. They don't know each other. Nobody knows each other. And yet from one person to another, they're describing just about the same thing. The descriptions of the beings, the descriptions of in the interior of the craft, how they're feeling, what instruments are being used. It's very startling. I mean, I show in my presentation, I show examples of two different people who've never met, but drawing very similar artwork of what they experience or what the alien beings look like.
Sure. So, like when you hear about Stan's case, and I know that you guys have known each other for a long time, but do you draw the same parallels there too? It's just like, yep, check it.
Well, with the experiences he's had with craft, seeing craft and with groups of people, and he's videotaped it. But with the intimate details of Stan's case within, where I don't know those intimate details because I've not regressed Stan at that point. But I imagine with what he's experiencing all these years, that they're very similar, like the rest of the hundreds of people that I've worked with.
I wish we could regress Stan right now on the air.
Don't worry, Stan, I won't.
Oh, that would just be, that'd be some radio history. And we get some clicks on YouTube with that one, wouldn't we? But, okay, so Stan, when I don't think we got the answer out of you. We started talking about some other things. Did you ever come out of your regression a little shocked about what you started to review?
Absolutely, because my first regression, especially, there's more. I wrote a whole book about my regression with my regression transcripts called the Orion regressions, and I don't talk about them too much because they're a little hard for me. Because some really bizarre stuff started happening in front of all these people when I get regressed, and my first regression, I remember. It was with a person named Deborah Lindemann, a very, very, very good hypnotherapist here in Colorado. And she asked me toward the end of the regression, do you remember any symbols? Do you remember any, was there any writing on the wall? Well, what happened during my experience is I guess they call it a download for lack of a better word, and maybe Yvonne has a better name for this, but they put stuff in your head. That's the only way to explain it. Mm-hmm. And I had all this stuff in my head, so she gave me a pad of paper, and I started writing down these little scribbles I saw in my head. And I started bawling at the end of my regression because I thought I was going nuts because I started writing this gibberish down. Well, it ended up being very complex equations, and I got to tell you, it freaked me out. I'm severely dyslexic. If I'm lucky, I have maybe a 4th or 5th grade math level because my dyslexia is so bad. Mm-hmm. And I was always, held back, and I was held back a couple years in school because my learning disability at that time, they didn't know how to deal with it. So, and not only was this were these equations, but one of them was an electron structure for an element that didn't exist at the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the skeptics over the years and the debunkers with this, and I've read this many times, and you know where I'm going, have suggested that you memorized this.
But at the time, there was nowhere to see. That's what they say. It's easy for them to say that, but at the time, this stuff wasn't out there.
Right. Please I'm not saying it.
No, I understand you're not saying it, but that's and this is what I have to put up with, and I understand. It's just one of those things, but this is what I have to put up with.
Right. So man, I'm so glad you're understanding that it's not me. This is just a conversation, man. Calm.
It's even within my own family, though. This, and we talked about this earlier today. That people in this situation, and Yvonne knows this. Thank goodness for people like her to help people like us. Mm-hmm. When you have experiences, you can't go to your local police. Not only are you shunned by your friends when stuff happens, but even within your family, people get divorced over this stuff. You can't go to the police. Oh, yeah. You can't go to your local shrink and say, hey, I think I had an alien experience, because then they really start thinking you're nuts. And it's sad. It's society. Luckily, it's a lot better now than it was. But, man, in the beginning, it was hard for us.
Have you ever taken a lie detector test?
I have, believe it or not.
Okay. Tell me about it.
And do you want me to spill the beans?
Absolutely. Yvonne, you want him to spill the beans? I'm on the edge of my seat.
If you want to, go ahead and spill, Stan.
Don't get me sued, but yes.
Well, it was, I won't get you sued, but it's somebody who took somebody's place, who you kind of work for right now.
Okay.
But I guess.
Okay. Well, that's fine. You can say George Norrie.
Yeah, George
if that's
Norrie,
what you're referring to.
We actually went to George Norrie, and this is the media for you. And I've got some other stories to tell you about the media, how they are so controlled and don't want this information out. Mm-hmm. I wanted this lie detector for the longest time. I talked about it with my wife. I talked about it with the scientists. I talked about it with my friends. I kept going to everybody saying, look, lie detectors are expensive. We can't afford it. Finally, I was on the George Norrie show once before. This is after Art Bell. I've been on Art Bell. I miss Art Bell terribly.
We all miss Art. Go ahead. Not a minute of a day goes by that I don't hear "We miss Art." I'm wondering if it's because of me.
No, I doubt it.
Because of you. I mean, You're awesome. You're really. I mean, your radio show's amazing. But so
enough.
I went to George Norrie and I said, "Look, I want to do this. I want to do this lie detector test." And about a week later, they got a call, just a weird call out of nowhere. Yes, we'll do it. We'll set it up. We'll do it. We'll set it up. We'll have it. Well, I had never taken a lie detector test before. I didn't know what to expect. But I went into this guy, found a guy, came in from I don't know where. I think he was local, but he came. He traveled a little ways. And
what city was this? Was this here in L.A.?
No. This was in Colorado.
Gotcha. Okay.
Actually, I had to travel to Boulder, Colorado, to do this lie detector test.
Okay.
Well, this guy kept telling me. He kept asking me these questions. He says, "Well, I'm going to ask you. Did you? Is the Boo video?" And it was about the Boo video. Is the Boo video a hoax? And I said, I can't tell you that for sure because I don't know if somebody was playing a hoax on me. I can tell you that I didn't hoax the video, but I can't tell you if the video is hoaxed or not. He says, well, that's irrelevant. You have to answer yes or no if the video is a hoax. I said, well, can you re-question it to ask me if I hoaxed the video? No, we can't do that. And he kept asking me the same question over and over. He must have asked me 20 times. The same question over and over. And then finally he quit and said that I failed the lie detector test. And when I looked at the way he did the lie detector test, we did some research. He did not do it the way he was supposed to, first of all. But something even more amazing happened. We got contacted by a college student from Boulder, Colorado, said that he had talked to some guy, and he found my information online somehow. He had talked to this guy who apparently was he was out to get the blasphemer.
Okay.
And we have a witness that this guy admitted that it was a complete setup, that he wanted to prove a point and make a what's the word? He wanted to make me sound like I was a joke.
Well, the question itself, if I'm understanding you correctly, the question that they asked was, and I'm quoting here, is the Boo tape a hoax? End quote. That was the question. Well, that's you can't answer that question. There's no correct answer.
Not the Boo tape, the hoax. Is the alien in the window a hoax?
Well, you can't answer that question, yes or no.
No, you're right, and I've got the video, because they recorded it, and the guy allowed us to record it, but he won't let us record his face, and he made sure that we disguised his voice.
Well,
and I went to George Norrie. I was upset. Really upset.
Did they do it on? Did they do? I mean, were you being set up? It sounds like they were doing that on purpose because
we found out through channels that this whole thing was a setup. And I went to George Norrie and I said, "Look, I don't have the money to do anything about this legally," and he wouldn't even return my calls.
Well, okay. Have you ever taken another lie detector test, or was that the only? Because that's bogus, in my opinion.
I'm thinking about it. I've got a really bad taste. I don't know who to trust unless I do it unless I find somebody myself. But then people say, "Well, then you set it up."
Right.
Well, Stan, was he a licensed person? I forget what you call him, doing the lie detector test?
Was he certified?
But I have no idea. I was not given his information, and I just went to this building, and I went to this room, and that's all there was. I wasn't allowed to take any information back.
She's asking the question the same reason why I would ask it, in that those guys know how to ask the right question the right way. That question posted like that, presented, you can't answer it. It's impossible.
I know, and the doctors are going, "You failed the lie detector test." And I said,
polygraphers.
I've got proof that it was a setup. I have, witnesses coming forward that's saying, "Man, this guy admitted that he set you up."
Okay.
And this guy didn't know me from squad. He said, I just had a really bad feeling about this guy, and I felt sorry for you, so that's why I contacted you.
Oh, okay. I just don't know how to
I've got
respond to
stories
that. But
about the media that will just really make the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
okay, well, tell me one before I.
Well, I was on 2020 prime time regarding this Boo video, and they sent their top producer. This woman she was such a sweetheart. She had been with ABC. ABC was at that time just taken over by Disney. She was with ABC for a very long time, and they sent this person named Andrea from Good Morning America at the time, and I promised Andrea I'd never use her last name. I just talked to her, Andrea, yesterday. And they came to our house because they wanted to see all the evidence that I had. They heard about the Boo video. I talked to them over the phone, and they spent a few days here. And I told them, I warned them. I said, look, you spend time here, things might happen. It's not dangerous. If it's too much for you, you're welcome to leave or whatever. Well, stuff happened. They saw two huge UFOs over the house. Some other weird paranormal stuff happened. It freaked them out. They went to the network and they said, look, this is the real deal. You have to talk about this. They were the main producer was fired on the spot. Oh. And Andrea actually ended up working for Larry King and now works for that other English guy that's out there now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay.
And this is just the way it is. And the same with there was a show out called Chasing UFOs with right. James.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to stop you there. I want to save that story for a little bit later. And
sure.
But do you find the same thing, Yvonne? Do you feel like do you feel pressure sometimes to stay quiet with some of this?
No, I'm not going to stay quiet. It's as I mentioned before, it's we have to talk about this openly to let people know how widespread this is. I'm invited to go to Brazil in a few months, and whenever I've traveled, overseas or to other countries, I'm just, it's still very chilling to me when people come up to me, they don't even speak English, and something resonated with them, something they saw in my PowerPoint presentation. But, it's just, I will not be intimidated. No one has the right to intimidate anyone. And I think it's ludicrous that people get fired from their jobs over this just because they mentioned UFOs. I mean, this has to stop.
Yes.
We're in 2014, and it has to stop. But, somebody is pulling the strings. As Stan mentioned, our news agencies are totally controlled. I mean, they're totally told what to report, what not to report.
Well, I have
especially about this subject.
Well, I have said many times, I come from a sports background too as well, and everybody that listened to me over the years on that program, the reason why I chose the career path that I did, which was starting my own program without having to answer to anybody. And any of my advertisers that were involved would allow me to just run my mouth. And what I found, or the reason why I got into broadcasting was because I knew, listening to not only the late night AM radio stuff, but this goes for mainstream, MSNBC, CNN stuff too as well, that there is a filter that is going on behind everybody's mouth. You're only getting half, if you're lucky, of what is real. Everything is filtered. And the one freedom that I have is I can say what I want. I will always say what I want, and I'm not going to be stopped. And that's why I appreciate you guys being so open. Oh, so to that end, Yvonne, give everybody out there a treat. What's the one? You have one case. You have hundreds, but you have one case that just has to not only be mind blowing and fascinating for yourself, but something that you could share with everybody.
Well, yeah, I do have, many cases, and they all have their, something uh, to them that is absolutely mind-blowing and fascinating. But I'll tell you, the case that put it on the map for me was the case that I worked with over the years of the abduction of two brothers, Jesse and John Long, when they were 4 and 5 years old. And in fact, I have this case. I wrote about this case in my first book, Chosen. And after, it's so hard to explain, but there's so many components to this. But I worked with Jesse, who was in the film industry out here in Burbank for many years, and he knew something very strange was going on with him. So I started working with him in hypnosis, and we talked about going back to when he was a child, and he remembers an incident with his brother, John. Well, after working with Jesse at about, this was, 30 some odd years after their experience as children, John just happened to call him out of the clear blue. Jesse was here in Burbank. John was in Tennessee where this happened, where the experience happened. And he decided, okay, I'm going to try to undergo hypnosis. I'm going to see if anything happened. But John was, he didn't really care about UFOs. He really, all he wanted to do was build his house for his family. And Jesse never divulged anything. That's why I ask for multiple witness cases for people not to talk about it until we're done studying it. But when Jesse and I flew to Tennessee and I saw his brother and I did some hypnosis, and just, their conscious memory was the same, and the information that came out during hypnosis was the same. And it was just, that's what I decided, and I realized, oh my God, this is real. There's so much more to this case, though. I mean,
well, take everybody through it. I've read about the case. I'm glad that this is the one that you chose. But tell everybody exactly what happened. What happened to them in Tennessee when they were young? And I don't want to set. I want you to tell the story. But the one thing about it was they didn't know. They're separated by states and by distance, and they're not communicating with each other. And if I'm correct on this, Jesse, it's been years since I read about the case, but Jesse told you, or anyway, you had your sessions with Jesse, but his brother didn't know anything about those sessions at that time. Is that exactly?
That's right. Because Jesse never divulged anything to him. And it wasn't until I worked with John, when I flew to Tennessee and I did a couple sessions, 2 or 3 sessions with John, that's when I was able to get them together in their parents' house at the kitchen table with their mother sitting there, and then all this came out. And I remember, and his mother, John's mother, said, "Oh yeah, I remember when he was a little boy, he would always tell me that he could fly." And in John's session, his friend, and these kids, have these friends that play with them and almost babysit them when they're having these experiences. This was the tall, over 6 foot tall, praying mantis type of alien being that's described almost every time by people. And he said that it was almost like the praying mantis was entertaining him while Jesse was down the hall being examined. And he said, during his hypnosis sessions, he just said, I feel like something in my tummy, a little tickle in my tummy, and now I could come up off the floor. So he was being taught how to fly. And both of the boys came away from that experience when they were 4 and 5 years old with implants. Jesse had it in his left shin. John has it in his left earlobe, right under the skin. He still has it to this day. Jesse had his removed, and we've had it analyzed. The pictures are in my book, and but John decided, as many experiencers do, he decided that he did not want to have it removed. He said It was the agreement that he has with his alien friends since he was a child that if he keeps it in his ear, they will give him information. And as I was listening to Stan saying, we do refer to it as, being downloaded with information. John received information over the years where he's coming up with so many different inventions where he's applied for patents. One of them was called a eccentric magnetic drive. The details are in the book. But this particular one, gained attention by the government. The U.S. government was very interested in this. It has to do with magnets and using magnets up in space because they don't wear out.
Wow, that is just fascinating.
He was visited by members of the U.S. government, and he was asked who he was talking to and how did he get this information. And that particular patent didn't go through, and they had put a hold on it. And mind you, John has a high school education. He built his house. It has happened to be a round house by himself, and he's coming up with all these. He's when you talk to him, he's brilliant, and I feel, and he feels that the information has come from them. And I asked him in an interview a couple of years after I flew back to Tennessee after his regressions, I said, when do you feel you received this information about these inventions? And he said this all came through after he had his regressions. So the regressions, we opened up his subconscious mind, and he was able to receive all this information they were giving him.
Now, Stan, I'm going to ask you in just a second about this, but didn't you have an implant as well?
They found on CAT scans, MRI, stuff like that, they found 4. And, I haven't had any of them taken out. One interesting thing, I had an experience, and there was a lump in my chest with 3 puncture marks around it, and the lump migrated from my chest to my armpit. And there was a movie producer that had a cabin up in the mountains, and he said, well, come up, and we want to videotape, and because it's out in the middle of nowhere, see if anything happens. And he hired camera crews from affiliates, ABC, NBC, Fox, and stuff like that. And we all went up, and there were, at the time, about 20 people, I think. And the camera crew got scared off. They were so frightened, they all left, and the remaining 12 all had missing time. But it's interesting. I don't want to take it out, and when the stuff stops happening, I actually kind of miss them. It's bizarre. I think it's some kind of bizarre thing with these experiencers.
Well, isn't John Lear with you this Saturday too as well?
No, Roger Lear.
Oh, Roger Lear. John Lear.
Yeah.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Totally another Lear. I apologize for that. Which would be an interesting conference, in as of itself. But so you've got the good doctor with you this Saturday too, which I want to let everybody know that's just a weird coincidence. This Saturday, it's a pretty exciting conference, but I didn't find out about that until today, and I wish I knew in advance, Yvonne. But so it's Roger Lear with you this
Dr.
Saturday.
Roger Lear, who's going to discuss the removal of the implants, and so he's considered the pioneer of implant removal. Also, scientist Steve Colburn is going to be there with me, who actually does the analysis of these implants. I believe Roger has removed about 17 of them so far. And I'll be speaking about what occurs in an abduction, what somebody goes through, and the different marks and scars people come up with overnight.
And that's my...
this is... sorry?
That's my question. Is it a consistent thing with, here Stan has got his implant, so we're batting 1,000 there. What's the percentage of your clients that come in that do have scars or implants or the possibility of implants or maybe even something that's been removed?
Gosh, I don't know percentages, but almost, I think the majority of people who have had experience or are having experiences will come up with overnight scars and marks on their body. Not everyone has talked about having an implant or suspecting an implant, but I suspect that many people don't know, are not aware of it. They don't all show up on X-ray or MRI. So, some of them are very difficult to detect. Some of them you could feel right under the skin, like John. I was talking about John Long in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. You could feel it right under the skin. Many of them are that way. So, we're going to have a very interesting conference on Saturday. And may I tell the audience where it's going to be?
Yeah, go ahead. And it'll be up on the. We'll have links to it on the website, and they're probably up there now. The producers and the web people are working on it as we speak, and it's probably already there. But yeah, go ahead.
This will be Saturday, January 11th, from 7:30 to 11 in Marina Del Rey, California, at the Just Cause Entertainment, and that's going to be on it's 4130 Del Rey Avenue. They could go on to CiroInternational.com. You can purchase tickets through PayPal or just pay at the door. It's only $15 per person, so it's very reasonable for the caliber of work and research that you're going to get. The second half of the evening after the break, we're going to have a panel with myself, Dr. Roger Lear, and Steve Colburn. Then I'm going to bring on two experiencers from Ciro, Jacqueline and John, and they're going to talk a little bit about their experience. But mainly it's going to give the audience an opportunity to ask us questions. So, Jimmy, if you'd like to be there, I will certainly put your name at the door.
Well, I was just getting ready to say, and hey, I might be there. So
yeah, that'd be wonderful.
I would love to come down and check it out. Okay. So let me back up a little bit. You mentioned one thing that they don't necessarily show up on X-rays and MRIs,
right?
But Stan, you said that yours did.
Well, there was one that was taken out of my thigh that barely showed up. The only reason they even remotely thought about taking it out was because after an experience I had, it started popping through the skin. I thought it was a sliver. I didn't know what it was. And when they took it out, it had this white fuzz all over it that started liquefying once it reached the air, and it was sent off to Cal Berkeley, and Cal Berkeley freaked out because it had these tiny virus-sized computer chips in it and little gears and all kinds of weird stuff, and I don't know.
Okay, now I'm trying to wrap my mind around what you just said. Did they photograph it? Do you have
Oh yeah. I showed up in fact, if you go to my website, I think it's on my website if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And can I post it on, I would love, our listeners right now, they're
sure,
like,
if it's
man.
on my website. If not, let me know. I'll get you the pictures.
Okay. I would love to have known about that. That's part of the beauty of live radio and no scripts. You know what I mean? But I wish I would have known. I would have had that on the front page of the website. I would have loved to have everybody see that. But so you're saying gears? How big was it when you?
It was the size. I thought at first, it had these really weird properties, and I was working with one of the researchers, had all these connections to these universities, and she wouldn't tell. It's funny because she wouldn't tell them where she was getting this stuff. She said, just, can you look at this? And they'd look at it and freak out, and then she'd tell them. And then they had no choice but to really start diving into this stuff. But yeah, this was about the size of maybe three BBs put together.
Oh, so it's substantial. I've
I
seen.
guess two BBs put together.
Well, I've seen this.
It wasn't really that big, but it was teardrop shaped, and I thought it was a piece of glass.
Well, I've seen
It's
the
like
stuff that Lear has. We've all seen. Not just me. I've seen all of his stuff that he's removed, and I can't identify. I can't relate to what I'm looking at. It's not, it's something that, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. It's stuff I've never seen before. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, can you imagine? Can you imagine what the abductees, what the experiencers are feeling?
Well,
when
yes.
something like this is taken out of their bodies.
Right.
know?
And they don't know how it's gotten there, and they don't know how long they've been carrying it, and it looks freakish. And then you have the skeptic side, and I'm not going to be devil's advocate here, but that say that this kind of stuff can be picked up anywhere, and you could have, been carrying this around with you. You might have stepped on it. It somehow,
Well, it's sure, and that very well could be. But when you put these things through analysis, and certain properties are found, like Steve Colburn will talk about nanotubes. In an implant that was taken out, several years ago when they weren't even talking about nanotechnology.
Right.
Nobody knew what that was. I mean, then what? Anybody could step on a piece of glass or whatever. Sure, and those things would be analyzed and eliminated. Okay, it's a piece of glass. It's a piece of wood.
Exactly, and I'll tell you why. If for a skeptic to say, "Hey, you're stepping on the stuff," well, you know what? To be honest, I'm not pulling stuff like that out of my skin, and I don't see stuff like that anywhere. Which is why I said earlier, when I see these pictures, I don't know. I've never seen anything like that. I just can't identify. I can't even relate to it. And you're saying it's so common that we're just stepping on this stuff all the time. So that means everybody, you know what I mean? Everybody's got it in their foot, including you, Yvonne.
Right,
What's funny is the implant that I had, this is what really freaked him out. It wasn't so much the microscopic virus-sized computer chips and the gears, which I think would just totally wig me out, but it was sent in a sealed test tube, and this test tube was, cleaned, very cleaned. It was very sterile, and by the time it got there, it made a teaspoon of it was encased in a teaspoon of some kind of amino acid that they cannot identify even to this day.
Oh, really quick, our web people just texted me, and so I'm just going to say this out loud so they can just get this up. It's ysmith.com. Okay, so they're listening.
It's ysmith.com. However, if they want to come to our event Saturday, go to cerointernational.com.
Cero is CERO international.com. Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just watching this stuff fly across the computer screen. And
that's okay.
So, Stan, you had said that do you still have an implant now that you're?
I do, yeah, I do. I have one in my wrist. I have one in the back of my neck, towards the base of my skull.
Uh-huh.
And I have one deep in my hip, by my hip bone, right at the joint. And I mean, that would take major surgery to get any of those out. So,
do you?
Yeah, and the one in the back of the neck is very common.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
There's many hip procedures that are performed on abductees, and that one I hear all the time.
Do you know how many people right now listening to this show are feeling the back of their neck?
Of course, of course. Now, I don't want to send the audience away, frightened that, oh my God, I had this one scar. It's not just one thing. It's a culmination of symptoms and incidents that could point to an abduction experience. So just because you've had a scar or, you feel something, a bump on your head or something, we'd have to look at your history and your family history and what's been going on before, anyone becomes frightened or freaks out about being abducted.
Right. With Stan's case is different in that he had he saw something one night. With other people, multiple witnesses, and boom.
Mm-hmm.
But for you, what can you suggest to somebody that maybe suspects something is a little funky in their past and they're just thinking about something? What can you suggest to somebody that might have been having thoughts over the years that something may have happened or may be currently happening, but they're just not for sure? What do you suggest to them?
Well, it depends on what they want to do. If they want to pursue looking into these strange incidents and possible experiences, and they could, they could contact me through my website. I could send them out an information kit with questionnaires. And this is a process I start before somebody comes in to see me.
Mm-hmm.
If they're living, in other parts of the United States or other countries, of course they'd have to find someone in their area who studies this and who is well trained. If they're going to go on in hypnotherapy to pursue hypnotherapy, they have to be sure that the person is qualified to do this. So it's a very complex, Jimmy, very, very complex. It just there's a lot of searching, and like as I mentioned before, I go into the person's background, the family background, and sometimes I'll bring in family members for me to interview because it is a family affair.
I've got a question, and off the air, I'm going to tell you guys who this just came in from, but it's from somebody that hosts a very big television show, a friend of mine,
Okay.
And you'll laugh, but the question is, well, it's kind of a two-parter. When is there? It's a two-parter. So just let me get to the first part first. Are the contact the ETs? Are they interested in our technology?
No.
I've never had that question.
I have to. It's a fascinating thing. Yvonne, you want to answer that directly and just say no, or?
Well, I think they're interested in what we are doing with our technology. I think they're interested in and very concerned with our weaponry and what we're doing. I mean, we're not real intelligent down here with what we're doing. I mean, we can't even get along with each other. So I think they are interested. They are very concerned. It's obvious. Stan mentioned that his father had the experience at Minot Air Force Base. I don't know if you've talked to Captain Robert Solis.
I interviewed him. I interviewed him 2 weeks ago on this program.
Perfect. I mean, and so his story where there's a flyover these Air Force bases, and in his case, all the ICBMs were turned off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to me, that was sending us a message.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can affect in our ignorance, we can affect the rest of the universe. So, I don't think they're interested in our technology by any means, but they're interested in what we are going to be doing with our technology. The
second part of the question, I should almost read it verbatim here. She said that they're interested in our eggs and sperm and other physical attributes. But what about our minds?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You want to take that, Stan?
I have a theory, and forgive me for interrupting, Yvonne, but I have a theory that humans have no idea who they really are. I saw something, I think we talked about this too. I saw something a few years ago where I was watching CNN live. It was late at night, about 11 o'clock at night, or CNN. And they had the head of the Human Genome Project come out, and This guy just nonchalantly said, oh, and by the way, we know that 30 to 40% of human DNA comes from off-world.
Yes.
Don't believe me, they can go online and see this for themselves.
I remember that. Yes.
And so what does that mean? It means that we are something more. And these beings are interested in us because we are something more. Maybe we are part of their experiment. I think it's actually more than that. I think we have these amazing abilities that they're kind of confused about, who or whatever we are.
Explain. I mean, that's...
Well, for me, and Yvonne is right. It is in the family. I mean, I want to backstep a little bit. My sister and my brother both have had experiences. I'm sure my father has. But in my journey, now it's become spiritual for me. At the end of the day, it really is about our spirituality. And humans have this amazing ability to what they truly believe they can manifest. If they truly believe in something and they work hard enough, they can actually manifest it. And if you've ever heard of the Maharishi effect, Maharishi University got together with Harvard and they wanted to do this experiment, and they said, look, we can drop the crime rate of a city. And everybody laughed at them. They said, okay, well, let's let these guys try it, because what will it hurt? So they picked the city with the highest crime rate, and they meditated and prayed. I think was it 10% or 1%? I don't remember, but not a very large group of people prayed and meditated. Not only did they drop the crime rate, but the time they did it, the crime rate was supposed to rise. So they dropped the crime rate in total like 40%, which is absolutely amazing. And every time they've done this in the UK, every time they've done this, this experiment, it's worked.
Yeah, they reproduced it in many different cities. And you're absolutely right.
And so what does that mean about humans? Humans have the natural ability to change quantum reality. And so what they truly believe they can manifest. So number one, it says that reality itself is probably not what we think it is, and we can actually manipulate it. We can bring things into being if we so choose to. A little bit confusing when it's one-on-one, but when it's global consciousness, it's amazing. That's why these big powers just try to keep us in fear, because it controls. They don't want us to know we have these abilities.
Well, so, I mean, but the agenda, the agenda, that's the key word here. And when you have different things happening that aren't consistent, and I'll explain in a second, but then you have the very consistent things, the reproductive stuff, is that the agenda? Is there one focus?
It depends on who you're talking about. You got to understand there are multiple things here with multiple agendas. It took me a long time to come to terms with it. This is from our connections from high up in the government that are telling me this.
Okay.
This is the real deal. There are some things here that are dying out and they want to save themselves. They know that we have a strong genetic connection. So, there are things that are, and it goes, there are levels of existence throughout all levels of existence, all the way up to what we would name the angelic realms. We call them that. They don't call themselves that. We call them that because we're trying to put God into a box.
Okay.
So there is all this stuff out there, and all of it is interacting with everything else. And once we learn that that's just the natural way of things and stop focusing on this third density state, then we'll be a completely different species.
Yvonne, with the different interactions that you have seen, is there always, do you find it, the reproductive stuff, both male and female, does that come into play?
All the time.
Yeah.
Every person. Yeah. And they may not remember it, and most people don't remember it, but when we start exploring and working on, and I start working with the person in regression, yes, it comes out. So I feel, part of their agenda, a big part of their agenda is the DNA factor. Producing. They're interested in our DNA and producing this hybrid race.
Yeah.
I've had cases where they're presented with their tiny babies, and then they're abducted, over and over to interact with their child as their child is growing up, wanting them to bond with their child. I hear this over and over again. The case of John in my book, Chosen, I interviewed him, for his chapter, at the end of the chapter, and he felt, that he knew the last time he was going to see his child, that was going to be the last time. It was almost like the child was going to leave the nest, and he felt very sad. And what was amazing for me to hear that from John, because John was very, very traumatized when he was having the experiences in the beginning and when he came to see me at first. And to hear him say that, he bonded with this child, because when he was shown this baby in the tank, it took us 3 different sessions for him to actually look at this baby floating in the tank, because they kept telling him, this is your child, this is your baby, you have to bond with it. And then at the end of this chapter, when he said to me, he felt very sad, and in fact he cried during his interview, that he knew he wasn't going to see his child again, or maybe for a very long time. I mean, it's amazing what, how this experience makes a person evolve, like with Stan was just saying, looking at these experiences now more on a spiritual level. I hear that from many people as well when they first started out traumatized.
Do you think that, and this is directed at both of you, do you think, what do you think? Okay, let me back up. What do you think the reaction is going to be with not only your friends and family, and for you, Yvonne, well, your friends and family too, but your clients and your patients, when and if the government is pinned up against the wall where they have to actually say, okay, all right, this has been going on. It's been going on for a long time. Well, it's eventually it's an inevitable, but how do you think people are going to react?
Well, at first, one of the excuses that the government is always saying is it's going to destroy our structure, our religious structures, and people are so sophisticated now, and it's what 75% of the human population believes that there's life elsewhere. Mm-hmm. It could be that first of all they're going to be very angry that they've been lied to all these years. People like me, I'm going to be very happy that finally, we're vindicated. We weren't traipsing around in some fantasy world. Abductees are not psychotic or fantasy prone. But it's hard to, I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to know what humans are going to do. I was watching something the other day, or something on the news, where, and I'm sorry, I don't remember what it was, but I thought, oh my God, this is probably why the aliens don't show themselves to us, if we're going to act like this. It was something about, people fighting each other and, grabbing for the food, and I forget what it was that I was watching, but it almost made me realize, are some people ready? I don't know. Some people may not be ready.
How about you, Stan? Oh, I'm sorry, Yvonne. I thought you.
No, that's okay. I don't know. I really don't have faith that our government is going to come forward. it would have to be something so spectacular, like huge, like Independence Day, where there's huge ships hovering over major cities all over the world at the same time.
Yeah,
where they can't they can't deny it anymore. But I don't know.
Well, Stan, I was going to throw the same question at you, but I was going to mention this later, and then I'm going to let you answer the question. I was going to save this for when you and I were alone, Stan.
Okay,
all right.
If you remember to ask me, I'll remember to answer, because I won't remember.
I want you guys to listen to this. Are you ready? 2001: A Space Odyssey, Prometheus, Close Encounters, E.T., Pacific Rim, Ender's Game, Battleship, Battle Los Angeles, the Transformers series, I Am Number 4, Avatar, Alien the series, Super 8, District 9, Starship Troopers, Men in Black, Independence Day, War of the Worlds, Chronicle, Predator, Signs, Mars Attacks, Cloverfield, Cowboys and Aliens, Stargate. I think that we're a little bit prepared, mentally, because we have been fed this, and there's got to be, for me, this is not a coincidence. You're talking about probably $20 billion worth of production that I just named off right there. Yeah. And there's 100 in the last 10 years that I didn't name. But certainly that excuse for the government saying that we're not ready, it's all we watch.
Exactly.
It's all we want to watch.
But look at how they portray aliens in most of these movies.
Scary, exactly.
They're aggressive, and they're dangerous, and they want to hurt us, and so I don't know how much they think they're preparing us. I mean, what is it again? Like Stan mentioned, do they want to keep us in that fear mode?
Right.
If the aliens do show themselves on the White House lawn, we're all supposed to be afraid.
Right. Your phone is breaking up.
Control.
Yvonne, if you can hear me, your phone's breaking up a little bit. I think you're probably moving around, but we heard what you.
You know what? Let me change phones. It may be my battery.
Okay.
Hold on just a second. And then I've got about 15 minutes.
You've got about 15. You change your battery, and I'll let Stan answer that question that you and I so rudely cut him off from.
Okay, hold on.
So Stan, what do you think the reaction of everybody's going to be?
I think the government is in. This is what I've heard. They've already got a program to drip feed this to the people, but their agenda may not be on the up and up. I think they might try to use this to get more control, like they did with the 9/11 stuff. And they got the Patriot Act, which is absolutely against our constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
They might use this for their benefit, but we are ready. The Catholic Church, Monsignor Balducci, head of the right hand man of the Pope. He came forward, the Catholic Church came forward and said, look, this is real. It's okay to believe. It's not a sin to believe anymore.
Right. And of course, to that end, I think we lost. Okay. All right. I was waiting for her to come back.
Wow,
okay.
That was really loud.
It was louder on my end. Yvonne, I hope, okay. Well, we'll have to take a break, and I will call her back. It's 10 minutes left. She's probably okay. Let's move on. It's called live radio, everybody. With Balducci, and the way that they presented themselves to finally to Catholics around the world, that we're probably not alone. That was the statement. Remember, we're probably not alone. So it's inevitable. There's too many stars, but it wasn't so long ago when they had the exact position. With Galileo and everything else, if you had a telescope, you were in some big trouble. And so for them to reverse position, well, they don't have a choice. But what do they have today? They've got observatories all over the world.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I agree. Now, one of my family members said something to me a couple of weeks ago that was just absolutely astounding. And this was the comment. He feels that it's a exact opposite of what you just said, Stan, and what I said, and the status quo. In that, if we find out that there is life elsewhere, that we freak out, right? Anarchy, madness in the streets, right? Religious
I
breakdowns
don't
and
believe
everything.
it.
He says that if we find out that there is that question is answered, then we'll be happy that there'll be relief and that there is now a reason to live and there's a reason to take care of the planet and there's a reason to go explore the stars and there's a reason to advance ourselves as human beings,
Exactly.
and if we find out that we're alone, then crap, there's no reason for anything. We're just here alone on this rock and there's nothing else out there. Well,
Exactly. And
then
that's what, my experiences, and how do I say this? The guys upstairs have kind of hinted around that, once we come to terms with the fact that we aren't alone, it's like a light switch will be turned on. We'll go from this level to this level. And if you could see my hand, I'm going way, way up.
okay.
And we'll go from the lower levels to the upper levels.
Okay, listen, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. I'm going to fire up the music real quick, and I'm going to try to get Yvonne back on the line. And so we'll just take a break, and we'll be right back. This is the Dark Matter Radio Network. We're on with Stan Romanek and Yvonne Smith. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
JJCR in your face.
JimmyChurchRadio.com.
On the Dark Matter Radio Network.
Oh, yeah. The cool sounds of KJCR. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. KJCR, Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I'd like to thank everybody for around the world just listening to this amazing interview that we've been doing. And follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can do that. You can go to YouTube, which is Fade to Black. You can go check that out. And, of course, the Facebook fan page, which is JimmyChurchRadio.com. We booked a lot of likes last night, and I can't thank everybody enough. But this week I want to work on Twitter, which is at JChurchRadio. Let's see what we can do with that. And technology today allows us to do all of that, and we can feed every single source from just one. So no matter what you follow, whether it is Facebook or it's the website or it's Twitter, whatever your choice, it all gets updated at the same time. So go follow us. Whatever your choice is, go do it. It all gets updated at the same time. Okay, I tried to reach Yvonne, and I think she's having some phone problems. So there you go. Stan, you still with us?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay, now straighten out your microphone a little bit because I think you got a little comfortable on the break.
Is that better?
Okay. All right. Now, Stan, let's see. Let's see if we can get me sued. What do you think? again, this is just a conversation, and the network bears no responsibility for any. No, okay, all right. We've had a couple of very candid conversations this week, and do you mind going there? Let's
No problem. Let's go there.
On a few subjects. Let's talk a little bit about the Boo video reenactment. Now, and the thing is with and before we get too much into it, let's try to not get anybody in trouble. What I'm more concerned about is what they shouldn't have done, in my opinion. This is just my opinion, and which is air that stupid thing on television. I thought that was just wrong, and trying to which they did, try to publicly humiliate somebody. But this happened at your house.
Yep.
And I guess, did they come out and film? You know what? We don't have to name that. If we don't name the network, we're in the clear. So let's just say this. A network came to your house, was it last year? Because it aired last year.
I didn't sign a contract with them, by the way. So can I name them without getting you in trouble?
Oh, man. You just want to go there. See, this is why.
I do.
Okay, well, let's tell the story first. And, oh, geez, because now they're wondering exactly what we're talking about. But,
right.
And if they can put two to two together, then they will. Certainly we can name Mr. Fox, because I have his back, and so do you. So they come out to your house, and they're going to do an episode for what was the name of that? Was it Chasing
UFOs? Chasing
UFOs. So they come out to the Romanek house, and they are. I'm just setting this up. You're going to tell the story, but the Boo video, they kind of set things up in that same room, didn't they?
Well, no, this was a totally different house.
Oh.
In the room that they used, the guy had to crawl on his back because the window itself is maybe 2 foot off the ground.
And the old window was 7 feet off the ground. That's right, exactly. Okay, but they set they set up a prank to make it look like that. The feeling of the Boo video. That's what I meant to say.
Well, they tried to scare James Fox and make me look like an idiot all at the same time. I actually kicked them out of the house. And what happened before then, which is really upsetting to me, when they first started setting up, they had this huge camera crew come over. They interviewed my neighbors because my neighbors told them about all the stuff that they see. They were interviewing everybody out in the road. A black helicopter hovered over everybody when this was happening. They actually got a camera shot, close-up camera shot of the face of the guy in the helicopter. Then suddenly the whole neighborhood went black. The power went out.
When the network shows up with a crew, describe to everybody what that means. I mean, how many trucks, how many cameras, how many people, how many assistants, how many cameramen? What are we talking about here?
They have like 4 trucks, like U-Haul trucks, full of equipment. They had to unload it all on our driveway because they had all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many cameras and how many. I've got pictures of all these different camera people they had placed everywhere. They went and used our garden level family room as a base to set up everything. And it took them quite a while. It took them at least 4 hours, 5 hours just to set up, to get ready for the video that they were going to do at night.
And I only asked the question direct because we're not talking about like one camera, a couple of people. This is a production. This is a no joke situation.
No joke situation.
Okay.
And, James Fox, God bless him, the man is an upright man, and he's very, very honest. And what they did upset him enough that he decided he didn't, it wasn't right. He knew it wasn't right. So he said, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Well, and let's get back to that in just a second. But James Fox is the guy that has been waving this flag for a long time. And he has, him and Larry King, brothers in arms, and that's a small part of it, but he's directed some amazing documentaries over the years, that I've watched many times, not just once. And, so here's a guy that is truly out there fighting the good fight, believes in his heart that he is doing the right thing, as most of us do, but he truly, you know what I mean? And do you understand exactly what I'm trying to say? I want everybody to understand the position that he is coming from. And then they play a joke on him. And what was that?
Well, they took an alien mask, and the guy had to crawl down underneath the window and somehow wiggle this mask up from the ground to look in the window at James Fox while he was manning the station as we were walking around in the park looking for UFOs.
So James is sitting there, and I've seen the video. James is sitting there. He's looking at like monitors and stuff, right? Yeah, like laptops and computers, and he's looking at what you guys are doing outside, right?
Yep.
And then suddenly this ET head pops up in the window like the Boo video.
Crap out of him.
Yes, and he has this. Now I wasn't there. Well, I guess you weren't either. You were out in the yard when this went down.
We all were connected via radio, so we could hear everything that was going on.
And what did he say?
He goes, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! It's somebody. What's?" And he's kind of freaking out, and he goes, "I just saw something. That can't be real. That can't." Well, if he would have just stopped and thought, there's no way it could have been real because that was only 3 foot off the ground.
Right. And he's been waiting his entire life for a moment like that.
Yeah.
And to play that kind of a trick. Now, I've seen, I saw it when it first aired. And to see the look on his face and what they did to him and to see his reaction, it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool at all. It wasn't funny. I didn't laugh.
It made me look like an idiot because they were trying to make fun of the alien in the window video.
Yeah, the Boo video.
And what upsets me even more is they captured all kinds of stuff at my house. They captured fist-sized balls of light flying through the trees. They captured the gate opening and closing and latching by itself. They captured a 3-foot figure running across the road on their thermal imaging. They captured all this stuff, and the only thing they showed was that one little incident.
The practical joke.
Yep.
And what was their reason? What was their excuse for suppressing everything else that they
wouldn't give
shot?
Me a reason. They wouldn't give me a reason. Like I said, I didn't sign a contract with them, so who knows what's going to happen out of this. But they made me purposely look like an idiot, and they need to be smacked on the hand. James Fox was really pretty upset about the whole thing. Our neighbors, they interviewed all our neighbors about all the stuff that happened. The black helicopters had Paula Harris, very famous, UFO personality. She's a very amazing journalist in Italy. She was here when this stuff was happening. Everybody saw it. There were multiple people here when this stuff was happening. And these guys just, no, we want to just make fun of people.
How do you deal with, not only that particular, because that's a direct thing. I mean, the country was a witness to that because everybody saw that episode, and you're saying that they were filming forever and had tons of stuff, but they chose to ignore that, but they just wanted to, air that spot with James, and that was completely wrong. But how do you deal with, the suppression of everything in your life, and because it comes from every front too. It's not just the comments about you not telling the truth or CGI this and that and things are fabricated, but it's the other intrusions into your life with your computer systems and your email and telephones. How do you deal with this? Because it's every single day.
It is, yeah. I've been shot at twice. I've been beaten up and told to shut up. We find listening devices in our house. We found out our phones are tapped more than once. The people we work with have been threatened. This is just part of trying to enlighten the human race.
But how do you deal with it? I mean, how do you deal with it?
You don't have a choice. You just move on. You make fun of it. You just move on. there's a war going on over the spirituality of this race, and that's really what it's about. The guys upstairs, the good guys, want to help us evolve, understand that there's more out there than just them. It changes everything. The guys down here that are in control say, no, this can't happen because we will lose control. Especially the oil. If you have an ET come down and give you free energy, the oil companies are freaking out.
Right. Well, and for everybody out there that thinks that, Stan is, exaggerating a little bit, Stan, I'm going to tell him what happened between you and I today with your email. Sure. So Stan and I are talking about a week ago, and I had difficulty reaching Stan. And finally, when we do connect up, there's issues with his computer systems and things. But he gives me a fresh, clean email and says, this one works. And I shoot you off an email. Everything's cool. You and I communicate for a couple of days. We exchanged a bunch of emails. Everything is fine. We're talking on the phone. Everything is cool. And then what happens today, Stan?
Yeah.
I go to email you, and it gets, it's not working. It's just how do you deal with that? I mean, I'm upset if I can't retrieve my email on my phone once and I've got issues. But this is something that you don't even know what's going to happen to you when you wake up every single day.
I don't. And that's, I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. I have video. We just had a guy, we've been asked to leave by our internet service provider because they watch people hacking into our computers. I have videotape of the local internet service provider coming down and watching on my computer as somebody is somehow, and nobody knows how they're doing this, remotely accessing, opening all my files from somewhere else. And, he's sitting there, the mouse is right next to the computer, and I'm videotaping all this happening. And this isn't the only time this has happened. And, it's not just that. Even the local police department is out to get us, and they're going to be dealt with soon enough. But, it's ridiculous.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. And it's just like, at some point you just have to throw up your arms, I would think, or, you just got to entrench yourself and fight the good fight. We were talking earlier today, and you mentioned to me, it's something I had never heard of. So I want you to, and I told you then, let's not forget this conversation. You mentioned to me a military organization that, you want to explain that a little bit because I cut you off earlier today, and I didn't want you to go any further with it.
Well, it's good that you remembered because I forgot. Like I said, I grew up in a military family. There is a definite military connection, and I'm finding out more and more about this military connection as time goes on. My father had top secret clearance, and my father supposedly retired E7, which is a master sergeant in the Air Force, and he was an enlisted man. Interestingly enough, I remember there were always men in black suits coming to our house talking to me specifically, and sometimes to my brothers and sisters, but they'd always talk to me, and they would talk to my mom and dad, and this is just how I grew up. And
how old were you? What age?
I was 4 or 5, something like that. I don't remember. It was throughout my life. And I remember that they saluted my father all the time. Whenever my father went anywhere, they saluted him, which is unheard of back then to salute enlisted.
Sure.
Nonetheless, this was the case with my father. I tried to ask my dad. My dad's still alive. My mom passed away in 91, but my dad's still alive. And my dad says, you don't want to know what I did, and you don't want to know what the military knows. That's his. Sometimes my wife, he's 80, like 85 now or something like that. Sometimes my wife can weasel stuff out of him. But what's interesting is a couple of years ago, my sister stumbled onto some paperwork, and I found out that my mother also had top secret clearance. And we always thought she worked at the Corps of Engineers. Come to find out, she worked underground at this place called Rocky Flats, making nuclear warheads, and who knows what else she was doing. But there were some weird things I started having memories of as a child. There was this strange woman that followed me around everywhere I went, which I am now absolutely sure was not human. But even more so, there was a connection to the military. I remember being strapped down and given these weird shots. I remember, going to this one classroom, I remember, and them telling me stuff. I can't, this is at the very back of my memory, so it's hard for me to recall exactly what happened. But I remember during some of my abduction experiences, there were two of them that were absolutely horrific. And this was very confusing to me because most people talk about a lot of people talk about having these horrific experiences. I've had both absolutely amazing experiences and then horrific experiences, two of which I think were the government. Those were the horrific ones. And my wife read a book that was given to her called Above Black, about something called Project Preserve Destiny. I think his name's Dan Sherman, if I got it right, I hope.
Okay.
And she goes, Stan, there's a lot of connections here. There's a lot of weird stuff that this guy talks about that you talk about. And I go, huh? And so sure enough, I read the book. It's like, oh my God. I eventually get a hold of Dan and we start communicating back and forth, and we find out that we were in the same time at the same place. Minot, Grand Forks, stuff like that. Now I was born in Colorado. We moved back to Colorado. My father taught at Larry Air Force Base, and I didn't know that Larry Air Force Base was Air Force intelligence. So I found out later that my dad was teaching at an Air Force intelligence training facility here in Colorado. And then I started asking questions about my dad. I've always been different. I've always been unusual. Even though I have a severe dyslexia, I have a fairly high IQ, and I think differently. When I was 5-6 years old, I kept trying to explain to my parents why time didn't exist and how time really is, and that everything is now and there is no future and no past, that everything is, at this very moment. And then, I told them how it would be impossible for Santa Claus to exist unless he could manipulate time. And they said, well, if you don't believe in Santa Claus, we don't have to give you presents anymore. And I stopped saying anything. But so then I started diving into this Project Preserve Destiny more and more. And I remember, to make a long story short, there was a cooperative program with off-world visitors and the government after they made contact in, 1940-something. Mm-hmm. They would allow abductions to happen for technology, but they wanted to keep track, and they had no way to communicate. So that what happened was these ETs and this government, and I truly believe this is real. Can I prove it? Not really. Dan Sherman is, he's a whistleblower. Mm-hmm. And they changed these children in vitro to have certain abilities. Well, that being said, I am just about pretty sure that I was part of this project. They tried with all their might to get me to go into the Air Force, and I just wouldn't have anything to do with it, to the point where I ran away a couple times because I just didn't want to put up with it.
You think that's why they wanted you to go into the Air Force, is because of this program?
Because of this Project Preserve Destiny.
Right.
Again, it's my speculation. Can I prove it? No, but it fits. Everything about my life, everything about the weird stuff that's happened in my life seems to fit with this Project Preserve Destiny.
When you say they, are you referring to your parents, or are you referring to somebody else?
My parents and everybody around. Oh, you need to go in the military, and we've got it all set up, and you can you'll be in the top programs and blah 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 blah. and which is weird because I was dyslexia, and at the time they didn't know what to do with it, and so I could barely read. But they had it all planned out, and I just said no.
Were they
And I think
Were they disappointed? I mean,
they were more than disappointed. They were irate. And I didn't give them a choice. So, I went a different direction. And
well,
again,
okay.
This is something I can't really prove, but to me, it's absolutely 100% real.
Well, now, what's man, I've got like 20 questions I'm trying to get out at the same time. Are you saying that the two are now connected?
Oh, yeah.
Your experiences
absolutely.
today and Project Destiny, you think the two are connected?
I think what's going on with me absolutely is connected. I think there really is a war over humanity up there as well as down here. And it's more complex than we could ever imagine. We are a race that has been messed with. I mean, even our timeline has been messed with. If you know about Project Looking Glass and stuff like that, our timeline is not where it should be, and it's trying to find equilibrium right now. We're getting some help. I really truly believe we're getting some help to set things straight. But it was really dicey there for a while. And so, people don't understand how deep this really goes. I didn't have a choice. I didn't take a blue pill or a red pill like on Matrix. I was pushed down the rabbit hole.
And we were talking about that today. So I'm and I keep saying that, but you and I have been talking all week, and there was so much of it that I wanted to make sure that we got in today. And one of those, and we're just going to continue on with that thought, is without everybody out there that just listens to your story, and forget about the skeptics and the debunkers, but everybody that listens to your story or experiences, I should say, is a better way to put it, that this is done for financial gain, that this is that could be the only reason to publish a book. It can be the only reason for all of this. And we were talking about this today. And so what say you, Stan, when you hear this?
That's just ignorance. That's absolute ignorance. Anybody that publishes a book knows that they aren't going to be rich out of it unless they make, unless there's a huge movie deal. And even if there's a movie deal, they don't get very much. People, the debunkers always do this. They say, Stan, you're making this up to make money or get attention. Who in their right mind would want this kind of attention? Who wants to be known as the crazy guy that sees UFOs?
Yeah, exactly. And the perception out there is you come on a program like mine and, you're selling a book. Well, we haven't talked about your book all night. And, or you know what I mean? And even if we did, that's not your point. And the perception is if you write a UFO book, you're a millionaire. And that's what you're doing. And that is, it couldn't be farther from the truth. What's that? I'm sorry.
If I was a millionaire, I'd be doing this completely different. For me, it really is. You have to be passionate about what you do. It really is. For me, this is what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to be here to help wake up the human race. People don't understand what's really going on. They go to work, they come home, they go to work, they come home, and that's their life. They're stuck in a box. I'm outside of the box going, oh my God, this is so amazing. I wished everybody could be out here. I got to tell you, it's scary though to have your reality bubble burst, and that's why there are so many skeptics. I was one of those skeptics. I understand what it's like to be absolutely terrified, but once you get over the fear and once you understand, hey, we're something more. Hey, there's stuff out there. We don't have to be alone. This race is lonely to the point where we've become narcissistic because of it. We have the inmates running the sanitarium. It's time to wake up and get well.
When you talk about abduction, as part of your experiences, was this through regression, or did you experience the abduction in real time?
that's another thing the media came out with a while ago. They tried to use this, you have sleep paralysis. I was awake when it happened. And come to find out, if you do any kind of research, at least 70% of the abduction cases, Betty and Barney Hill were driving upstate New York. They were taken out of her car. Travis Walton, he was logging with his friends, coming home from logging. He was, had that experience. Mine, I was at my house, and there was a knock at the – this is interesting. There was a UFO above my work that everybody – during rush hour, everybody saw this UFO hovering above my work. The damn thing followed me home, grabbed my camcorder, went outside and videotaped this object with my friends there, and it went away. And then that evening, about 11 o'clock, my friend went home at 11 o'clock. About 2 o'clock in the morning, there was a knock at the door, and I had my first abduction experience. I remembered everything. I couldn't handle it and tried to blow it off as a dream, but I remember everything.
Okay, well, tell me about it.
Well, I went to bed with a headache. It was just too much for me. I was just really kind of freaked out. Other stuff had already happened by that point. All these UFOs were starting to show up. This one was really, really bold. In the middle of rush hour, it followed me home. Everybody saw it. And I woke up. Whoever they were knocking at my door. And I was staying with my sister. I was a live-in aid for my sister because she had breast cancer and she was going through therapy and stuff. So we were kind of helping each other at a place. I was living with her. I was taking care of her. Then I didn't have to pay a lot of rent and stuff. And I thought my friend had run out of gas and had to walk back to knock on the door. Or maybe the neighbor was drunk. I don't know. Whoever they were, they knocked on the door a long time because it woke me up. And when I got up to answer the door, my sister had already answered the door. And there were 3 people standing outside, and they looked like, really young, skinny teenagers, and that's what I thought they were at first. And as I got closer, I started noticing some weird, peculiar things happening. First of all, my sister was standing there staring up at the ceiling like she was asleep still. And I kept yelling at her, "Who is it? Who is it?" And as I got closer, I see these 3 – there was a female and 2 males, which is not typical of what you hear about with these ETs, but there they were. And I thought they were wearing masks or costumes, and I'm thinking, these guys are going to rob us. Why would they be in these get-ups? It's not Halloween.
Why were you thinking mask?
Because of the way they looked. I mean, humans didn't look that way. Their heads were way too big. Very skinny neck, very skinny arms. They were all wearing this kind of baby blue. The female was wearing like a baby blue, gown kind of thing. And the males were wearing these baby blue jumpsuits. And the eyes were different than anything that I'd ever heard of or seen. They weren't black like you see, and I've got a theory about the black eyes anyhow. But they were so blue, they were almost violet eyes, huge wraparound eyes. And they had very long faces that came to a very pointy chin, and their nose and their mouth were really, really low real close to their chin. Like they had this really bizarre face. And they had pure white hair, very sparse, pure white, scraggly hair.
Were you scared?
First of all, I was thinking they were going to rob us, but then when I got closer, I was absolutely terrified, but for whatever reason, I couldn't scream. And I remember the female kind of pushed forward and pushed my sister out of the way, and I tried to step back, but I couldn't do anything. It was really bizarre. It's like my mind wouldn't make my body work.
And was your sister still emotionless, looking at the ceiling, acting
she
strange?
Was sitting there looking at the ceiling with her mouth wide open like, ah. And the female, we lived in a second-story apartment, so they had to come up some stairs. And the female grabbed my wrist, and a thought popped into my head, and that's the only way I could describe it, is a thought popped into my head, and the thought wasn't mine. It's okay. You're going to be okay. And it must have freaked me out enough that they started leading me toward the balcony and of this apartment complex. For whatever reason, the balcony, I don't know why, but I snapped out of whatever trance I was in, and I remember grabbing, there was a male holding my arm. At this point, there was a male, I think, holding my arm. No, the female still had my wrist, and there was a male on the right and a male on the left. And the male on the right, I grabbed, and I was going to throw him off the balcony, and I felt as if somebody kind of tapped the back of my head, and I woke up somewhere else.
Where did you wake up?
I can't tell you if I was in a spaceship, somebody's basement, in a cave. I'm assuming it was someplace not like any place I'd ever been. There were no corners. Everything was rounded. There was no furniture in this room. Everything was no freestanding furniture. Everything seemed to be molded out of surroundings.
You said you woke up. So were you laying down?
No. I was, and the lighting was real weird. You know those new European cars with that weird blue headlights? Everything was like that.
Okay.
But there were no sources. Everything was just illuminated.
So you were standing. You get tapped on the back of your head, and just like this, you're in another space.
Yes.
But so you were standing in the apartment or on the porch or whatever. But now you're standing in a room. I just want to try to understand, because when you say you woke up, okay,
actually standing against a wall.
Okay.
Stuck to this wall, and I wasn't. There were these weird, very thin, copper-looking filaments. One was to my right ankle, one was to my left ankle, one was to my right, one was to my left wrist, and I had these copper bands around my left wrists and ankles. I could have snapped these filaments very easily, but I couldn't move. And when I could move my head, but I couldn't move my body, I couldn't move my legs, I couldn't move my hands. Not that they weren't working, it's just, and it wasn't like I was glued down and or restrained. It was as if the gravity was too strong for me to move. And I could look, and the wall I was stuck against had these quarter-size copper pieces embedded in them in a pattern, in such a way that it looked like they were kind of, how do I explain it? Like a weird zigzag pattern, but there was a pattern to it.
Okay.
And I remember I was standing in the kind of this weird trough kind of thing. And I don't know if they were afraid that if somebody relieved themselves, it would go down this trough and not make a mess in the room. I'm not sure, but this female, whatever it was, came forward, and she hit a lit panel off to the right of me, and it released me. And you got to understand, everything's kind of rounded, so I could kind of see this wall was kind of rounded, so I could kind of see this panel. And it released me, and for whatever reason, I didn't do anything. But I was screaming inside, and every time I had a thought like, oh my God, what's going on, a thought would fill my head, or a symbol would fill my head, like, where are you from? This symbol this map would fill my head, or how'd you get here? Then another thing would fill my head. And eventually one of the males came scurrying over, and he had this box hanging from a strap on his shoulder, and the box seemed to be internally illuminated. It looked like it had some kind of compartments on it with a tube stuck out the back. And at the end of this thin, long tube, it looked like a melon baller. I couldn't explain what else it could have been. Well, they turned me around, and I felt this excruciating pain on the lower part of my back. And then I felt another tap on the back of my head, and I woke up in the middle of the room in this platform that was molded out of the floor.
So it's now a different room?
No, it's the same room. I remember this platform when I was stuck to the wall.
Okay.
It was directly in front of me.
Could you breathe? What was?
I could.
What did you smell? Do you remember anything from the atmosphere?
I was going to get to that because I got to tell you, that is the thing that I remember the most.
What did you smell?
In our yard, we have these trees called Russian olive trees. And if you've ever been around these trees in the late spring, they have this sickening sweet yellow flower that blooms out of them. Every time I ever came around those damn trees, I'd start having panic attacks, and I didn't know why. Until one day, I started remembering the smell during my experience. So what I did, it wasn't quite the same. So what I did was I took some alcohol, and I kind of put the alcohol in the background, and it is the exact same smell that I remember smelling during my experience. And oddly enough, I went to a abduction support group, and I told the person there, the psychologist there, what I remembered. So we tried this experiment. I brought a bunch of these branches of these flowers over, and we had them sitting in the back, and it was very strong. And there were like 4 people there that just absolutely collapsed. Started freaking out, and they couldn't figure out why, and it was because of this weird smell. But I ended up in the middle of this room.
Yeah, you're on the platform.
Yep.
Okay.
Sitting there in this female, and I call them the possum people because I don't know what else to call them. I will never forget this as long as I live. I felt so insignificant, and I also realized that a good way, and I know there are some of these conferences I go to, you always wonder if there are these, if we're being visited there at these conferences by people who are probably not from here.
Okay.
You can tell because they do this weird little thing with their head like a dog. You know when a dog is kind of confused and he cocks his head sideways?
I do it all the time. I'm just kidding.
Maybe me then.
Okay. All right.
Well, this female, whatever it was, looked at me directly in the eyes, cocked her head, and my head exploded with thought. That's the only way to explain it. It was an explosion, and it literally knocked me over. And I tried to balance myself, and she backed up as if to say, okay, you poor insignificant little amoeba, we're going to try this your way. Thought after thought, vision after vision just kind of filled my head.
Oh, you're saying that you were bombarded with an overload of information.
Absolutely.
And you couldn't handle that. She realized that it was too much downstream or upload or whatever. And so now it's like single files coming at you.
Yep.
Okay.
And then
whoa. I can't let you get away with okay, what was the first thought? What do you mean when you say thought? What was she uploading?
It started with these different symbols and all these different things that I would end up writing later during my regressions and during my sleep, these very complex equations.
Okay.
I was shown star systems. I was shown our Earth, different views of our Earth. I was shown winds so strong they were scouring the highways off the face of the Earth. I was shown floods and fires and all this horrible stuff.
Oh, was this when you were what was the date? You had a date, like September 12th, 2012 or something. I could have that wrong. I don't have notes, but
yeah. No, they also showed me. I thought they were trying to show me that, this some kind of devastation thing. And I was really upset. It's like, is this going to really happen? Is this going to really happen? And this weird 11064 cheese 98, these dots with numbers on them would just keep showing up repeatedly in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, well, what is that? It ended up being a date. It ended up being September 21st, 2012.
Okay.
Which was a very important date, actually. There was a massive sighting. There was all kinds of other stuff that happened. But I think what they were showing me is we have a choice of what we can do to this planet. I can speculate that's what they were showing me, but whatever it was, I woke up the next morning and convinced myself I had a horrible dream until I went to make pancakes, and my sister goes, "What the hell happened to your back?"
Oh, the melon ball or
Yeah,
the melon
yeah.
baller?
And I had all kinds of scoop marks, and they were fresh. These weren't scars. This was oozing. I didn't feel any pain, but when I reached around with my hand, I could feel with my fingers that there was something there.
How many were
And
there?
I fell apart. I mean, I lost it.
How many were there?
I had a whole riddle of little scoop marks and things all across my lower back. I had wounds, and all the hair was rubbed off my wrists and my ankles. And my sister actually remembered people coming to the door too, so it wasn't just me.
Did you communicate at all, or was it? And I mean, verbally. Did you attempt to speak? Did they speak? Or was it all?
No, because, and this is when I felt so insignificant. They can communicate, and they do communicate telepathically, or whatever you want to call it, some kind of weird whatever you want to call it.
With each other, or with each other, or with you?
With everybody. I
okay.
mean,
Okay.
They can communicate large volumes of information in just one thought. We communicate linearly. We say word after word, sentence after sentence. It's kind of slow and archaic. When she pushed that stuff in my head, it was too much. She had to slow down and do it step after step after step after step. That's the only way my poor little binky brain could handle it.
Okay, so you recall that when your sister said, "What's that with your back?" Did you remember then the experience?
I remembered my experiences, but my brain couldn't handle it, so it tried to compartmentalize it into a dream. And then when my sister said, "What happened to your back?" then it came real. Then it became real. Then it started. And these, when you asked, are they interested, or your friend asked, are they interested in our technology?
Yes.
They're so much more advanced than we are. They're interested in the fact that, look, the monkeys have a nuclear bomb now.
Right. Well, there's a certain amount of sense with that, with what you're saying, and Michio Kaku says. Well, I don't need to repeat that, but the truth is this: I have 3 dogs here at the house. I have 2 schnauzers and I have a little tiny mutt. I can't teach them how to talk on a cell phone. So I don't worry about that, and that's really the truth. If you stop and just think about that for a second, and just in its simplest terms, and look at it like that, then a lot of things make sense. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I wanted to ask you a couple of other things specifically. When you said did you describe the one that downloaded or uploaded the information as a porcupine? What did you mean by that?
No, possum people.
Oh, possum people, porcupine, same thing.
Well, yeah.
What did you?
Possum people, just because their face is very long, and I used to think they were. My story is so freaking bizarre. I used to think that they were hybrids. I think they're a completely different species altogether, and I don't even think I think they're dimensional. I don't know how else to explain it. I had an experience where I woke up, and this may or may not have been a dream, but remember the movie Cocoon where they unzipped themselves and became something else?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, that kind of happened to me, and I'm not the only one it happened to, where it was this little ET-looking thing, and then all of a sudden I get this thought in my head, we use this form because that's what you can handle, and then they kind of pop out, and they're a 7-foot-tall being of blue light.
Right. Well, was the possum lady? Man, I'm trying to.
I know.
Okay, was the possum lady the same species as the 3 that showed up at your front door?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not talking about
people.
Now, and this
And they played a part in my experiences later on because I've had 12 abductions.
that was my next question. You knew I was going there, Stan. Okay, so this wasn't your only experience.
No.
Okay, and how old were you for this first experience? How old were you
This
then?
was 2001 when this happened. I'm
Oh.
51 right now.
Okay, you're just a couple of months older than me. So now, when was your last abduction?
I honestly can't tell you. I think there are a few of them I don't remember, but I did gain something out of this. I had a torn anterior cruciate ligament that they fixed to the surprise of the doctor.
What is
I also
what is that?
had a torn anterior cruciate ligament and hamstring that they fixed.
Oh, hamstring. Okay.
And I also had I was supposed to go into surgery for a kidney stone, and suddenly the next day it disappeared.
Okay, so 13 experiences that you know of, abductions, and this was 2001. So you're looking at least, if your last one was this month, you're talking about one a year?
Yeah, probably one a year. And there was a year where I had more than one. I mean, I've been found on the roof buck naked with all the slide bolts locked from the inside. I've been found in somebody else's clothing.
Well, I did too, but that was on the Sunset Strip in the 80s, and that's a whole nother story. But what did you, and I'm not making light of your experience, please. I'm not.
No.
Okay,
I think we laugh about it too. My wife thought when I came back in somebody else's clothing, somebody else's nightgown.
Well, you know how many people listening to this show right now are now thinking that they were abducted because
they had a kind of a drunk experience.
Yeah, in college. So, okay, but out of these 13 experiences, I'm going to get specific as quickly as I can. We have only, believe it or not, I didn't take, we only took one commercial break only because of Yvonne. And Yvonne, if you're listening, thank you. And I'll thank you more later for coming on the show. But we have about 20 minutes left, and I knew this was going to happen with you. And okay, so out of those 13 experiences, are they all similar?
Yes, they're all similar except for two of them. Two of them I really don't remember. I was sick for weeks and absolutely terrified.
Okay, but when I say similar, and you answered the question, but let's get a little more specific. Same interaction, same species.
Sure.
Everything was the same? Did they?
I was always taken with a human female, which I find interesting. They need both male and female. And it was always the same female. There was one time they took me and a friend of ours, and oddly enough, this female that I was up there with, my wife was really quite concerned because she knew I'd been looking for her, because if I wanted to prove myself that if this was really happening, I'd find this female. Son of a gun, we found each other.
And you said up there, so you guys were taken away.
Yeah, we were taken away.
Okay.
And we didn't know each other, but apparently they looked for genetic markers, I'm thinking. And we seemed to be the right mix. And there was a time where they brought these, I believe there were 12 kids in to show us. I was right next to this female, and we were standing there wherever we were, and they brought these 12 children in. Some looked more human, some looked less human, some were older, some were younger. And I remember this one little girl was hugging my leg, and oh my God, she looked like me, and I just started bawling. And I eventually met this woman by chance at at one of the conferences. I kept looking at her going, where do I know her? And then it dawned on me where I knew her, and then she knew and I knew. We automatically just both knew.
And well, what happened? Did you talk?
Oh, yeah, we're very close friends. We're all like a big, weird family, all of us. There are 3 women involved in my case, and people make fun and say it's like sister wives. It's not really like that, but we're all very, very close, and we still sometimes have stuff with the kids, and that's what we call them, the kids.
All from the same area?
Yeah, oddly enough, from the same area. Well, Victoria, there's Heidi, Victoria, my wife, and myself are part of this whole thing. And Heidi and my wife were just, I think, they want to see what the interaction was. Victoria and I have been chosen from a long time ago. I mean, she had experiences from a child, I had experiences from a child, and we were just paired together through that. And at the time she was in Florida, I think, living, and then eventually moved to Colorado. She was compelled to move to Colorado for whatever reason. And
I think we're getting a little bit off in that you were telling us about, and I have to stop you there, and I apologize for that because we're up against. I need you to finish what I wanted to hear.
I do that sometimes. I go off. My wife always complains. She goes, "Man, you kind of go off topic."
Okay, well, female number one,
Yeah.
and you were. You said you guys were taken up there.
Yes.
And that's where we got off track a little bit. So tell us what happened up there. What was that experience?
Well, when they showed us the kids, and I know it was up there because I think I know where up there is. This is the one time I know it wasn't in a basement. It was somewhere else. They took the kids, they scurried the kids away. I tried to save the kids because I didn't want, but I realized that it wasn't ever going to work. And so they put us in this room, and the room started moving. And when the room started moving, and a lot of this came out, a lot of the details came out. I remember what happened, but the details came out in the regression. When the room started moving, we were concerned, and the being creature that was there, again, put his hand on the lip panel, and the whole wall became transparent. Scared the crap out of me. I thought we were going to fall out. And I noticed that we were underneath a very large planet with, how do I explain this? With kind of pastel white and orange and yellow pastel bands in the atmosphere. And I realized that, hey, that's Jupiter.
Okay.
And we were toward the bottom, and what I was looking at was a very large cylinder ship. It must have been at least 1,000 miles long.
So you're saying that was this a vision, or do you think you were actually in orbit around Jupiter?
It was a vision at all. It is a true memory in
No. I'm sorry, Stan. You misunderstood. When I don't mean vision like a dream. I mean, was this projected on a wall or?
No. It was.
You're in orbit around Jupiter, is what you're.
I am. Yeah. This ship. What's interesting is I'm thinking I'm going nuts, and I'm trying to talk to the hypnotherapist about this, and she goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "I just saw this on the internet. Remember the satellite Phobos, or is it it wasn't the satellite Phobos, it was the moon Phobos."
Yeah, Phobos is a moon.
Well, the Russians sent a satellite out to go investigate this moon, but something happened to the satellite, and just right before the satellite got taken out, it took a picture of this cylinder thing. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
I looked at that and almost peed my pants because that's what I remember. That's exactly what I remember flying away from during my experiences.
Now, were you guys, did you go aboard this cylinder, or the cylinder was just in front of you?
I'm sure that's where we were. When they let us out of the room, they were actually leading us into what I believe was a scout ship or something to take us back.
Right. And what was your lady, I want to say friend, abductee, what was her name? First
Victoria.
name, Victoria. Were you guys talking? Were you guys communicating?
She was distraught and freaked out, and she was speaking a weird language I didn't understand. And I was just trying to calm her down. Well, I found out later she was speaking Russian. She speaks Russian fluently. And so I don't know why she was speaking Russian then. I don't know what was happening. But, yeah. And then, I remember them dropping me off. They put me in the wrong clothing. And this is the time I came back in somebody else's clothing.
Oh, was this the Betty and Barney Hill clothes?
Yeah, there might be a connection with.
Well, was that your answer that for me? Again, we're just friends sitting in my living room right now.
Sure.
Was that your statement, or was that somebody else's statement?
Oh, that was Betty Hill's niece. Came up to me and she said, because when I came back with this nightgown, it had a wet spot on the back of it.
Okay, so I don't want to cut you off. I need everybody to understand. You went out on this, and when you came back, you were wearing not your clothes, but a nightgown.
But a nightgown is supposedly a plaid red Disney woman's one size fits all, but it didn't fit me nightgown. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, my wife was coughing, and I got up to go to the bathroom because I just had this. Could it have been a dream? Could it have been an experience? I was real groggy, and I couldn't move. And I turn on the lights, like, holy crap! What's going on here? And I wake up my wife, and my wife is laughing so hard she falls out of bed because I'm wearing this one-piece woman's nighty gown, as she said it, and we videotaped the whole thing. And I start bawling like a baby because I realized that something had just happened. And there's this weird wet spot on the back. So this nightgown was sent to the scientist to get analyzed. And that's how Betty Hill's niece heard that I came back in a nightgown. Well, she came up to me. She goes, Stan, my name's so-and-so, and I'm Betty Hill's niece. I would like to talk to you. I said, I heard you came back with a nightgown, came back in a nightgown. I'd like to talk to you about it. I go, okay. She goes, right before my aunt died, this was in 2003 that this happened, I think. And right before my aunt died, she had an experience, and she's really upset because they took her favorite nightgown.
I'm listening.
I said, okay, can you describe it? And she knew nothing about the nightgown. She said, well, it was a red plaid nightgown with a Disney character on it. And it's like, oh my God, how more bizarre can this possibly get?
I hope my wife, if I ever wake up in a woman's nightgown, is as understanding as yours, because I don't think that's the way it would, you know what I mean?
Well,
so where is this nightgown today, if I may ask?
I still have it. I don't know if it is Betty Hill's or not. It could be. It may be. We don't have the money to get it tested. It'd be easy to get it tested, genetically. But who knows? There's stranger things have happened. I have no idea.
Wow, that is okay. Because now we're up against it. How does this adventure end? You guys?
It doesn't.
No. I'm talking about Jupiter. You show up. What happened to Victoria?
She, I meet her years later, and we become good friends, and we have more experiences, and stuff happens, and I actually get to meet my hybrid kids in real life at a conference, at a very large conference in front of 200-300 people.
Explain what you just said. I think I understood. You said you get to visit your hybrid kids. So this is through Victoria?
No, this is not through Victoria. They just come visit us every once in a while. I know, it's hard to keep up. Trust me, it's more bizarre than you could ever imagine living my life.
That's okay. How many kids are there?
We get this weird phone call, of all things. There are 12 of them. 12 of them.
Okay, and you get to
I believe there are 12. I'm kind of losing track here because of my brain is just kind of a jumble right now.
That's okay.
But we get this weird. I'm talking to I think it was Victoria, and we get this weird. Our phone call was interrupted by this little girl's voice, and it said "Daddy." And it's like, huh? I don't have a daughter that young. What's going on here? I thought Victoria's playing a joke. Victoria thought I was playing a joke. And, they tell us that they're excited because they get to come meet us. And I thought somebody's playing a joke. I said, this is silly. She goes, I'm not silly. And I said, okay, if you're real, when are we going to get to meet you? And she says, well, we might get to meet you at your next conference. And, well, sure enough, they actually showed up at it was a Aztec UFO conference in Aztec, New Mexico. They have had an annual UFO conference there. Of all things, in a Mason's Lodge. Well, we kind of waited for it. Nothing happened. I actually drove down with Paula Harris and some other people that were speakers there to save some money. We drove. And we were looking for something. Nothing happened till the last day. I had just finished going to the hotel to change because I was going to speak next. And I'd gotten out of my car, and I dropped my computer. My computer slid out and was on the gravel. And so I was picking up my computer, and I hear these little footsteps run up to me. And this little girl say, I love you, and then she drops a flower and runs away. And I'm thinking, well, isn't that the bizarrest thing? And I go to say thank you, and I'm looking for the kid's parents, and there's nothing there. There's nobody there, but this flower's laying on the ground. And I am just totally freaking out about this, and I go running in because I remember, could this have been one of the kids? Well, I'm sitting there arguing with my wife about what just happened, and it was dark in this theater, and, Paula Harris was speaking, and this girl walks into the door and sits right down the hall from us where we were selling our books. We had a table to sell our books. Mm-hmm. And it's really dark, and I didn't think she looked anything bizarre or whatever. And my wife goes, Stan, take a picture of her. I said, why? She goes, she's not normal. Take a picture of her. Go talk to her. I didn't want to interrupt the talk, so what I did was I took my camera and put it kind of down low and got a picture of this kid. She got up and walked away. Well, when we looked at that picture, it's like, oh my God, this child was not normal. Her eyes were bizarre. I mean, huge, bizarre eyes. Later on, we found out there were actually 3 of them, and they came in while I was gone looking for – this one little girl said she was looking for her daddy. There were like 200 people there, and I remember that the head Mason of this lodge came up to me bawling because he was so frightened of what just happened. He said, they were here, Stan. They were here. I saw them with my own eyes. They weren't human. And he was shaking and freaking out. And all these people started coming forward about these weird children that came in. And one of them was he looked like he was maybe 12, 13, but he was about 7 foot tall.
And you are 7 foot. And you are able now to see them all the time, and
no, hell no. They only showed up those few times. I have no idea where they are or where they came from, and I know it wasn't a joke or a prank or anything. But no, I don't see them. It's not like that.
Well, you were saying that a phone call comes in, so or you were
in. That's how we found out about. We thought it was a joke. I mean,
right.
This isn't typical of what you hear. Of this kind of stuff. Nothing's typical about my case, but it is what it is.
It's an incredible story, and you're absolutely right. We're at the end of the show now, but you had told me earlier this week, you warned me. you said, Jimmy, your show's 3 hours. I was like, Stan, what did I tell you, Stan? 2 hours, you remember? And sure enough, we're out of time, and I wish we had another hour to keep going tonight.
Go on. I could my presentations. I could do a week-long seminar and not even touch what I have.
I want you to come back on. Will you come back on the show again and continue stuff?